Hello, people of the internet.
Hi,
I am American.
I'm Martin.
Martin is in a tunnel today. We're having some sort of microphone problems with Martin.
No matter where I am, it feels weird to me. What about you guys? Do I sound weird? And I don't just mean my British accent.
I think you sound weird too, but I feel like it's because you're sitting too far away from the microphone.
I'm literally a centimeter away from the microphone.
Anyway, so today we've got a whole bunch in store for you guys. There's a ton of art review. Major echo.
I'm telling you, there's something wrong over here that's not happening over there.
Just before we started the stream, I moved and I sat over on Martin's side and I spoke into his microphone and it was fine. I think Martin is become skilled at talking out the side of his mouth and so bothering his microphone.
Okay.
Anyway.
I don't know. We can't do anything about it now, so let's just live with it.
All right, so today we have for you art review. We've got a billion Patreon comments to get through, and we also have the story. This is the Alice 3 narrative outline to take a look at. What are we doing for prizes today, Martin?
I don't know. How many patches we got left?
I thought we were giving away license proposals.
Oh, we could do that as well.
Okay, we've got a bunch
Still
of
got a bunch of those, haven't we?
We have a bunch of the license proposals which we put up for sale on Mysterious yesterday, and this week we sent those off to EA. So we could start off by taking a look at, this was the care package that went out to, well, we didn't send Lulu.
Lots of people thought that, but we didn't.
Yeah. Oh, look, Ice Killer says there was a condom ad right before the live stream.
Don't ads sort of, they're predicted based on your browsing history?
It might just be the chemistry between me and Martin.
Maybe.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe.
Yeah, everybody's complaining about your echo.
I told you there was a problem, no matter how close and directional I spoke.
I bet you if we trade places, it'll go away. Let's trade places.
Well, let's go back to the...
No, come on. Let's
show the picture so that ladies and gentlemen can see I'm speaking right into the microphone. I'm not at a weird angle or any nonsense.
Yeah.
Let's trade.
All right, here we go. Yep. Your coffee's over here. All right, I'm on the Martin side of the world now.
And I'm just talking normally, not even near the microphone, and it sounds so much better.
It's a little weird over here because the mouse is in the wrong place. Right, so what did we have going on?
Well, we don't have to stay in these positions, so we're just doing a test.
I think the biggest problem is with the kind of the setting for the gain on your microphone.
Marcus Raven says still echo.
Yeah, but
for who?
I think that when I'm over here, I don't think the echo is as bad as it was. Oh my God, it's killing me.
What?
It actually went away. So much better.
It's just fainter, but still echo.
Yeah, well, are we trading?
Okay, over there.
There we go. Sorry, guys. This is the. I think that the issue is my microphone's louder. Like the pickup on the microphone is a lot
something's
louder.
different.
Yeah. All right. So
we missed a bunch of super chats.
How you want to do that?
We should scroll back.
There you go.
Truth Decay. They know we're a sexually active and attractive demo. They probably are.
I see.
Yeah. Alistaria. Alistaria. I sound like an all-knowing god. I am pretty wise. maybe not all-knowing, but reasonably wise.
All right. Well, you've got
another one as well.
You've got the echoey voice of a god, and Jenny Sanchez sends 20 Mexican dollars, pesos, and doesn't have a comment. So there you go. All right, let's get into art review. Now that we've messed around with microphones, we're sorry if the sound is broken. I don't really know what to do about it. Yeah, we did screw around with this for quite a while before we began the live stream.
We almost broke the microphone 5 minutes before starting.
Exactly. All right, so what we have here is Lulu, and this is the Alice license proposal, which is what we're going to give away as a prize today. Martin, I think you've got one of those there.
I do. It's right over here. Check it out.
So this went off in a care package to Electronic Arts. We sent it to jolly old England, which is where the guy is who's helping us with the license. And it's got a box that contains some of the Chaos coins. It's got the printed license proposal. It's got the embroidered patches, and it probably has a little bit of Lulu hair in it as well.
Most things do.
False Kingdom sends along a super chat and says he's playing Madness Returns for the 10th time as he watches... Oh, sorry, she. I think that's a she. As she watches the stream. So thank you for the super chat, and glad to hear that you're having fun playing Madness Returns for the 10th time.
For the 10th time.
There you go.
You should know what to do after 10 times.
I would hope so.
And I think Jenny Sanchez, she super chatted again and said nothing again.
Another 20 pesos, and nothing was said.
Thank you very much.
Crazy. So, Blade Siskadol, £4.99. Is that how you say that?
Yeah, of course.
Got patches, but it was bent thanks to the postman. Yeah, we have thought about this quite a few times, actually. When we send things, as you can see we do, by the picture on the screen here, a lot of stuff actually gets sent out of the studio here in Shanghai, and we put things like the art into tubes. You can see like this one here. These things get destroyed. And when we send the patches, a lot of times, some of the stuff we send out, like books, they send in plastic envelopes that are fairly thin. What we've found is, even if those things are put in cardboard boxes, they can still be destroyed. And it's rare that stuff gets destroyed, but it does happen. Even the tubes and the boxes get destroyed. So in order to guarantee that things don't get destroyed, we'd have to pack them in concrete. And the cost would be quite high. Even for those patches in a plastic envelope like that, it's like $6 to send.
Something like that.
To send to, say, the UK, it's like $6 or $7 US. And that price increases rapidly if you were to, say, put a large cardboard box around it. So we have to balance potential for destruction with cost.
Yep. Somebody did send some pictures in of a tube that the postman basically destroyed on the way. It's amazing the damage that these things can take sometimes.
Well, it's amazing the damage that the postal services can mete out to the parcels that they're supposedly in the care. You know, those parcels are in their care, and they destroy stuff like crazy. Anyway, this is a bunch of the posters for our Patreon patrons, and then this was the box and the tube that went to EA. So hopefully, before too long,
it's on its way.
The EA guys will receive that, and they'll be taking a look at our proposal. And
fingers crossed, everyone.
They're super positive. Like every time I've talked to them, they're really positive about what we're doing, and they're really looking forward to the license proposal and getting all of this started. So I don't think there's really going to be an issue there. And meanwhile, we had a call this time last week with a very large company who shall not be named. and they seem very positive. And then some Chinese billionaires were pulled into the conversation last week as well, and they seem very excited about what we're proposing. So, well, we'll see.
We will see. It's all very exciting, though.
Right. So, yeah, today we are going to be giving away copies of this license proposal. You can also head over to Mysterious and grab those, and our patrons have a discount code where they can get 50% off the retail price when they order one of those. So check that out.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I saw another super chat go past, and Jenny Sanchez again.
Wow.
Thank you for all the pesos.
Yes.
Thank you for the pesos. Say hi to me, please.
Well,
hi.
Hello, Jenny, and thank you. Hola.
Yes, we love them pesos.
We do.
As people know, all the pesos and dollars and pounds go towards Lulu treats and margaritas.
Someone says, Martin's voice is echoing. Yes, if you're joining late, we understand that Martin has an echoey voice problem, and we have tried to resolve this and not been successful. So
sorry. I'll try not to talk.
Try to talk into the microphone, directly into the microphone.
It doesn't really matter.
It does. It makes a massive difference, Martin. All right, so before we go any further, we should say a big thank you to our major sponsor,
Freaky
Fandoms. What do they have going on this week, Martin?
This week, it's the discussion of horror. Oh, what's the word I'm looking for?
Marathons.
Horror marathons.
You're looking for the word marathon.
Yes, and they specifically mentioned Elvira.
They did.
And someone else.
Billy Bob Briggs.
Who is that?
He is like Elvira, and for those of you who don't know who Elvira is, it's this lovely woman. They are late night horror movie hosts. So like when I was a kid growing up in the States and you turned on sort of the back channels on the television late at night, you would get, the Swamp Creature movie or some cheesy B grade or C grade horror film, and Elvira, the lady of the night, would be hosting the presentation of that film. So during the commercial breaks, she would pop up on screen, quite literally popping out on screen, and would talk about the film. And so the guys over at Freaky Fandoms this week are taking a look at the idea of horror marathons. And the people who, I guess, host and make horror marathons happen.
There's only one way to find out. Go and give it a listen.
But the guys at Freaky Fandoms are our sponsors, and they're our largest sponsor, and so your support of their efforts will go to support our efforts. So please go and be freaky with them.
Please do.
Please do.
Jenny Sanchez. Again. Thank you, Jenny.
She likes your English accent, Martin.
Maybe she means your American accent.
She says right there, your English accent.
I can't read, apparently. Thank you, Jenny.
We have to install that software for Martin. Martin Robot needs the software installed.
It was in the wrong font.
It was in the wrong font. Right, so let's talk a bit about dresses, because this week we had Omri send along something different. That is the... I shouldn't use this picture. Here we go. This is the bargaining suit.
It's been quite... What's the word? Decisive?
It's inspired a lot of conversation.
Yes. I like the idea, but I would have to check what business suits of the era look like.
Yeah, well, that did come up. One of the comments, and I think it's a fair point, was that women during that day didn't necessarily wear suits of this sort. Mm-hmm. We do have two super chats going by. One is Blade asking, how much do we get from the super chats? And another is Jenny back with another 50 pesos asking, when will Alice 3 be released? So Blade, the amount of money we get from the Super Chats has been increasing as the audience has increased, and especially when you guys have like the Super Chat war.
Especially last week's.
Yeah, but I actually like the Super Chat money just goes into the mysterious business bank account. It does, I don't know, so we don't really like see it. I mean, the company sees it, but it's not like it pops out of the computer and we immediately run out and buy margaritas with it. But it's definitely appreciated, and it does go to help support like paying us and paying for the things that we're doing. So by all means, Super Chat away. But I guess that's my way of saying we don't always look at it. We don't like look it up to see what it is. But the last time I looked, we did have like the last live stream. I think it collected like, $100 and something. Which
the last one was pretty big.
That's
because
cool.
of the war.
Yeah, it's very cool. The war. Wars are known to generate lots of money for people.
And Jenny asked, what was that? When would Alice 3 potentially be out?
Yeah, so we have put up a schedule, and I can't remember exactly where that schedule is, but the schedule outlines that, that's in the presentation. You've got the presentation right there.
I believe it says 2021.
Yeah, so Martin's got the presentation. You could open to that page, but it's going to be a while. You got to remember that it's going to take us like 24 months to develop the game, and that is starting after we have secured the financing.
Yeah, October 2021. That's what it says.
Yeah, well, and that's all very tentative. It's really dependent, again, on how quickly we secure the financing, who we secure the financing from, and the kind of game that we're making. And something interesting came up on one of the calls last week was that these guys who would potentially fund and also publish the game made the point that they could imagine there being multiple versions of the game, like a mobile version, a Switch version, and then a higher res, console or high-end PC version, and that maybe those are 3 separate products, which could mean that you get a piece and a piece and a piece. They kind of might link up, but they're not the same game, or that we might be in a position where the lead product is, I don't want to say lower resolution, but it wouldn't sort of be a super high end for the next console generation, which would mean maybe it's on a graphics level equivalent to, Madness Returns Plus, and that as a result, the thing gets done faster. It's all very up in the air right now, though.
Yeah, still tentative.
Yeah. Now, and all that being said, we could end up with a publisher. Let's say Microsoft came along and they said, we want this to be in the stable for the launch titles for the next iteration of the Xbox. Then obviously it's going to be a quadruple A product, and it's going to be much bigger, and that might also delay the amount of time that takes before the thing comes out. Yeah.
Alice on Elm Street likes the idea of the suit, but the shoulders and torso aren't sitting quite right. It's a very kind of vertical image. It's very up and downy. That's kind of what doesn't sit right with me. I don't know if Alice on Elm Street is feeling the same thing.
Right.
Or if it's just maybe like the puffy shoulders. But yeah, it's very stick-like compared to the dresses.
So what I was trying to do was list out the sort of negative comments or the pushback that we've seen. And so one of them had to do with, would this be appropriate for the era? I think one of the more sort of salient, more direct issues that you could have against this is, would Alice herself, as a 13-year-old, choose to wear this? And would it be appropriate for the adventure that she's going on? And to me, that is probably the question. And I think that the answer to that is no. I don't imagine that this little girl would don this attire in order to make herself feel powerful, invincible, special, magical. It's not, I think, in line with the way, if she were running off into the refuge of her mind, do we really think that she would be imagining herself wearing something like this? Or is it more appropriate, more likely that she would be in her what would we consider her traditional attire, which is the dresses?
Does she actually choose her attire? Is it not the subconscious just interpreting things? The subconscious would interpret bargaining with business, and surely she would have seen business suits.
Yeah, but would she have seen women in business suits in that day? And that's a question we need to do some actual historical research to determine whether or not it makes sense. Now, there's all like a lot of the questions that come up, and especially when they revolve around the questions of gender and identity and the subconscious, and us having to dive into her mind to determine whether or not we understand how she might think about this, that all gets really complicated. It all gets really tricky. So, I don't know. We'll have to go around on this a bit more, but I do feel like this outfit is contentious enough that we're gonna kind of stick a pin in it. It's not final. It's not for sure.
Yeah.
In the game. Whereas some of the other dresses that he's done, while they might need additional adjustment, I feel like we could say, yeah, they'd be in the game, but they need a little bit of adjustment, right? Like the denial dress undeniably was loved by everyone who saw it.
It was.
Yeah.
Ice Killer suggests that your mic is picking up my voice. But
Ice Killer, I agree with you 100%. And as I've repeatedly said, and I'll say again, I believe Martin is not talking directly into his microphone. And he's talking towards me. And so his voice is being picked up by my microphone.
No.
As an example, I've now turned my face to Martin, and I'm now able to sound echoey and silly like Martin. And I think it's just a question of where you point your face.
My face is pointed right into the microphone, and it still sounds terrible.
Do that again.
I'm doing it again right now.
No, I mean, just tell us what kinds of crumpet and tea you like in jolly old England, and do that for a moment so everyone can hear what it sounds like when you speak directly into the microphone.
I like butter on my crumpets, and sugar and milk in my tea, of course, for the dunking of biscuits.
All right. I like in the comments how it says, of course American is blaming Martin.
Of course.
Look, I went over to Martin's chair, I sat in it, and I found that if you speak directly into the microphone, the problem mostly vanishes.
But they also saw that my voice on your side was perfectly fine. So, Anyway.
Oh well.
We've covered this topic. We'll fix it after the stream.
We'll sort it out. We'll get Lulu to come in. She's our technical advisor. So we were saying that the denial dress, undeniably, we could see that in the game. The suit, the bargaining suit, on the other hand, I think is a question mark.
I think so. But Omri did say he would do this as a dress as well.
Yeah, I think seeing the bargaining suit done up as a dress could be quite cool. Everybody obviously loves the dresses, and we'll go around on this a few more times. I think we want to do some research on the historical nature of women in suits, and I think we'll have him do a dress version of the bargaining outfit, and then we'll go from there.
Yep, definitely. Blade Siskadol, got a message for you here. Leave me alone. Stop fighting with me.
That's the thing. I don't feel like I'm fighting. I'm simply suggesting that there's a way to talk into the mic to...
Everyone here agrees with me.
Yeah. Maybe you just have a very echoey voice.
Perhaps.
So we did get this week... These are the dresses that were done previously. I think everyone who's joined the streams before has seen all these. But he has done this.
Ooh. First time I'm seeing this.
This is his updated version of the Chaos dress.
I think this will probably get some better comments. The hair, for example, is it's a lot less Padme than it was. And, the colours of the dress, there seems to be less of that shocking green layered on top of the red. It's a lot smoother, the transitions between the two. I think this one's pretty good.
Yeah, I think this one looks pretty cool. I like the hair a lot better. Like you said, it's less reminiscent of what we saw last time around, where it was sort of the Star Wars Padme hair. So one of my comments was that he should try to do something a little more along the lines of like a yin and yang symbol.
Right.
A separating of the left and right, black and white. And so he's done a kind of little bit of that here. I think the colors are better. But
I think so.
He's actually done this as well.
Another new one that I haven't seen.
So this is second variation on the second variation of the Chaos dress. Now, I have to say, I think I like this one the best because it best represents the dichotomy between the sides, between the black and white, between the yin and yang. And so that, to me, kind of... though you could argue that this isn't chaos, this is showing the yin and yang, the balance. So it'd be better to call it the balance dress.
It does have more of the yin and yang feel to it.
Right.
You can definitely see the shape there.
Right. I mean, this is getting a lot of positive...
The chat has gone crazy when we showed this image.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this one wins, if there was indeed a competition.
Yeah, I think so. We're getting a couple of super chats here. This is, I really love the sort of sea green with the silver, and I love the cat skull. I think it would look much better as a dress in the same colors, and that chaos dress is so much better. Loving it. Okay. All right, well, thank you, Alice Daria, for the comment and the super chat. Ice Killer saying Martin needs a negative echo voice to cancel out his positive echo voice.
Yeah, we'll fix it.
I mean, what's a little bit strange is that we didn't have this problem before.
No, something's not right.
Yeah.
You don't know what.
Yeah. I think that Alice on Elm Street, the comment here is, what if you had both somehow? I'm assuming she is talking about the yin and the yang, and that maybe you could switch between the two as a mechanic in the game. That's actually a pretty cool idea. I think that, now I'm not going to even acknowledge Lucas's comment, because to do so would be to go against his request.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that's actually a really good idea from Alice on Elm Street, that there's a dress that represents balance, as this one might, but then at the press of a button, you'd either be able to go into chaos or into order, and that then could have an impact on the power or the effect that the dress has in the game. What do you think?
I was wondering if Alice on Elm Street meant switching between the two chaos dresses, the orangey one and the purple one.
Maybe that's what they mean. I don't think that's what's meant, but perhaps. Yeah,
but a switching mechanic, for sure. Why not?
Well, yeah, I think switching between yin and yang, chaos and order, male, masculine, and female. I mean, actually, that could be quite interesting. So if we go back to the suit, you know that when you read Jung, there's a lot of talk often of the feminine side living on the chaos side of the yin and yang, that the feminine side is represented in the black side of the yin and yang, and that's connected with femininity. Now, I mean, Jung said a lot of really crazy stuff, so we take all this with a grain of salt, but as it goes towards establishing a theme that we can all kind of get on board with, maybe the switch is that she does go to a masculine side wearing a suit, and that's the order side, and then she switches to the feminine side and she's wearing the dress.
Why not?
Could be interesting.
Could be.
This is something that we need to, our wiki editors need to put up on the wiki, is these little comments that we're coming up with on the streams.
Yeah.
Someone says that it's contest time.
Is it?
Yeah. What are we giving away today, Martin?
Look at that.
What do we say?
Truth Decay. We'll just acknowledge your super chat. Let's leave it.
Yeah, so today we're going to be giving away 4 copies of the Alice Asylum License Proposal Booklet. I will have signed these. Yeah. And so I guess what you could do in the chat is, because you do need to light up the chat in order to be eligible, just say, yes, I like the echo, or no, I don't like the echo.
And while you're doing that, Tori something super chatted us.
Yeah, what did Tori?
Tori Hime Daika. Give the suit skirt a little more volume. Suit actually isn't impossible from the era, but doesn't feel like Alice.
I agree.
We'll see what Omri can do, weaving his magic.
I agree. Yeah, for sure. I think that there's the historical question, there's the character question, there's a psychological question. You know, as was brought up, maybe we're switching between suit and dress. There's something in that as well. So we'll take a look at all that, and we'll see.
We shall.
All right. So we're going to ask Nightbot to give away one of these Asylum booklets.
And I'm going to jot this down.
And just remember, Lulu is not included.
Sorry.
Sorry. You wouldn't want her anyway. She farts a lot. All right, here we go. Nightbot says, Kaylee Salmon.
Kaylee Salmon. Well done.
Congratulations, Kaylee Salmon. The way this works now is that you can send us a message through YouTube, but there's some sort of like a business contact button if you go to my profile, or I'm not exactly sure how that works, but you can also email mysterious@americanmcgee.com, and you send in your name, your phone number, email address, and your mailing address, and you could mention that you won the contest, and we will send you a signed copy of the license proposal.
Yeah.
There's a lot of conversation still on the microphones. Ray, thank you for the super chat. We'll just let you know that before the stream began, we actually spent quite a lot of time trying to make adjustments to the microphones, and we were unsuccessful.
Somebody said that maybe conference mode is switched on somewhere, which may make sense based on the talk we had last week.
I don't even know where...
With that dodgy software we had to install.
But I don't even know where there is such a thing as conference mode.
We'll investigate.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I wish we could fix this. As far as we understand it, nothing changed with our setup. And, so anyway, Kaylee Salmon, you are the contest winner. So please be sure to email us all of your details to mysterious@americanmcgee.com. And then we will get your contest prize sent out to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trevor Dumont is scrolling off the screen. Are there going to be any references, cameos to the original American McGee's Alice? Maybe a rework of the beautiful score?
I'm not sure what that means. You mean a rework of the music that was in the original game?
Yeah, so fans of the original can go, oh, that sounds familiar. I recognize that.
I suppose. I hadn't really thought about... I mean, the idea is that Asylum, the project we're working on right now, is a prequel to American McGee's Alice. So you'd play Asylum, and then in Alice's narrative timeline, you would end up in American McGee's Alice, and then into Madness Returns. So we might want to be a little careful, do anything that feels like it's a reference to a thing that hasn't really happened yet. But of course, there will be sort of call-outs, and we'll place anchors in Asylum, which pay forward into American McGee's Alice, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And Asteria Visual just would like you all to know that they are Asteria.
Great. That's good to know. All right. So, that brings us to the end of art review. We did have this image, which was sent in by one of the fans, who she may be in the chat there today, but she is Gamer Epic Kate, and she did a picture of Lulu, apparently in some sort of a breathing bubble.
It looks it.
Sat atop the carpenter's head. So, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah. It's a pretty interesting one.
It is. It's I wonder where the inspiration for Lulu in a bubble on the head came from.
I don't know. Very strange.
But there you have it.
So we've got a lot to get through today. One of the things that we really need to get through is all these comments over on Patreon. But at the same time, we also did just recently post up the story, the Alice notes. Now, do you think we should do comments first or go through this really quick?
I think we should do some comments, and then we could go back to it. We need to make a start on them.
On the comments?
I think so.
Okay. Well, let me just quickly say that when we do come back to the Alice story notes, for any of you who don't want the story spoiled, then that would be a time to poke out your ears, because we will be talking about things related to the story which would fall into the category of spoilers. But we're not quite there yet. So let's take a look at some of the comments. I'm going to move this over here because I don't know how to do that.
Blade Siskadol hopes there is a Lulu Easter egg in Alice 3. I'm sure there will be. I hope so.
We can do that. That's not a problem.
She can be sat around somewhere.
Sounds like a good idea. We have
a rather sizable super chat just came in from That Bloody Panda. Thank you for that. That's excellent. Hey, American and Martin, 2:30 in the UK. Have some British money. I do miss my British money. Keep up the amazing work. I'm excited to see what comes from Alice 3, and it's very exciting to follow being a Madness Returns fan.
Well, thank you very much, Bloody Panda, for the 50 pounds.
50 quid.
50 quid. Maybe we'll use that to buy some bitey British cheese.
Maybe. Some double Gloucester or something.
We'll see. And
yes, thank you.
Another super chat from Blood and Spikes. This is my first live stream. Yay. And what the heck is that beautiful music at the beginning of your live stream? That music is by our good friend Kian. And he is on SoundCloud. What's his last name?
How.
Oh, right.
KianHow.com, I think.
Yeah, but if you go over to... is it that? No. If you go over to SoundCloud, there is a copy of those tracks. And, of course, KianHow.com is another place you could go for that track. I think he's got it up there. Anyway.
H-O-W.
Well, that would be Y. I can't find it. But yeah, go find Kian Hao.
W.
Oh, okay. Go find Kian Hao. There we go. And I think it's Kian Hao like that. H-O-W.
I believe so.
Because people ask us, there he is. That's our buddy. He's
Look
such a
how handsome he is.
super handsome guy. But if you go to his SoundCloud, you will find that he's got a bunch of his music up there. And I'm pretty sure that up there somewhere, you will find that track. I'm not sure exactly where, but yeah, he's got it up there somewhere. And his music is really, really good.
So take a listen.
Yeah, take a listen.
Sure, it's there.
So Kian Hao, Kianhow.
He's in Japan currently.
Wow.
Have you seen him posting pictures?
I have not. All right. So let's get to some of these.
Matt S. Is Asylum Alice 3 or Alice 0?
Well, Matt, it would actually be Alice 0. It is the start of the story. According to the timeline that we posted up on Patreon, it is taking place, as I said, before American McGee's Alice, which you could call Alice 1, and then you'd call Madness Returns Alice 2. And so, yeah, it'd be best to call this Alice 0. Yeah.
There you go.
Alice on M Street's sent another super chat saying, I really want to be a game designer, so I'm freaking out that you like the switching idea. We do like the switching idea, though we still don't know whether you meant that one dress switches between chaos and order, or you switch between dresses. But anyway. All right, so let's take a look at some comments here. Taylor Goen has a question for Omri, actually, regarding the darkening dress for cosplay purposes. Wants to know if the tips of the shoes are coming up in a curve. Well, we'll have to get Omri to take a look at that comment for you. We get some good luck from Lay, and loves the color schemes for the stages of grief. Kylie Blair is in love with Joey's artwork. By the way, if there's not a direct question in here, we're probably going to kind of skip through this because there's a lot to get to. So we're going to be looking for questions. Taylor agrees with Kylie. Destiny, she's saying she loves the dresses and likes anger, bargaining, and depression, or is excited for those. And yeah, no questions in there. Calum Nightingale, who I think is in the chat right now, is loving the art and likes to see the process of the art as it's growing. Wants to know, is an art book confirmed for Alice Asylum? And I think the answer to that question is yes. The original art book we did for Madness Returns was massively successful globally, and I really think that we would be foolish not to have another art book done.
Yep, I've seen that question a few times. I think we can confirm an art book is going to happen.
There you go.
It would be awesome.
Alastaria sends $2 to correct my pronunciation of Goen. It should be Goen.
Goen. What did you say? Goen?
I'm not sure what I said. And there's another super chat from Alice on Elm Street saying, I kind of meant both.
Ooh.
That's why it was vague.
It was vague.
There you go.
But thanks for clearing that up.
Absolutely. More comments. So keep it up, says Susan. She's really liking the art prints and is liking the monthly art prints. How many of those did we have to package up this month?
Well, I think it was 70 of Red Chesh.
That's a lot of art prints.
And it's going to be more next month. I've already checked.
Yeah. Wendy Bratcher is loving the art drop. Wants to know if Alice's neck looks abnormally long to anyone else. I think the point being made there is that in some of these images, the way Omri has rendered Alice, the shape of her, like in this, for instance, you could think that perhaps that's a very long neck.
Yes.
Could be.
But if you check the image of the post that this was commented on, it's quite a long neck. The Joey image.
Yeah, but, she's got a long neck.
Yeah.
We're not against people with long necks. We don't want to exclude people just based on the fact that they have long necks.
But not as long as Lara Croft's neck in the latest Tomb Raider movie poster.
Well, I don't know if you know that, but scientists have proven that in order to be a proper adventurous heroine, you need to have a very long neck. That short, stubby necks just don't survive on female adventure characters in the wild.
Wow.
Scientifically proven, Martin.
Proven. You heard it here first.
This is true. Okay, I might be making that up. Okay, so Rachel Garza, who joins us quite often here, says that Joey's updates are her favorite. And there's something about the style of artwork that fits so well. There is another comment here from Sin Anderson, loving the art, super loving the chaos dress. Mercedes Martinez, a.k.a. Cannibal Clown, who also joins us on YouTube quite often, is loving that the dodo bird was included. Actually, I did forget to load that in for today's comments. This was an image that we shared during last week's stream, and it was a pelican here.
It was a pelican.
Which, according to the Wonderland lore, is a little bit wrong, because the dodo is what's mentioned in the stories. So Joey heard that comment and fixed the artwork.
Excellent.
There you go. Interactive.
Well, that's why we're here. Get the comments, do the changes.
So Gregory, he's in the chat with us today, I believe, but he's loving the art, has mixed feelings on the dresses, likes the original and the denial dress. Inferno looks better without the shoulders on fire, but the bangs on the blackening doesn't look like Alice, and that thinks that the skeleton gloves are a bit much, and thinks Chaos is a total mess. But then again, isn't Chaos supposed to be a total mess?
I think so.
But I think that Greg's comments are, they're echoed, speaking of echoes, they're echoed by quite a few people who've, gone through and looked at this artwork. Now, that's the first time I've heard anything negative about the fire on the shoulders in the Inferno dress.
I think so.
Yeah. Silent Dreams sends along $5 and says, thank you for reading my comment. It was exciting to hear my name. Destiny. Sorry I didn't have any questions. Oh, no worries.
But thank you for the super chat.
Thank you, Destiny. Your support is greatly appreciated. I was going to say muchly appreciated, but I don't think muchly is a word.
You can say that. I'm always saying thanks muchly.
There you go. Greg, I think, the comments that he's got here are kind of on the balance. Like they're pretty typical, I think, of some of the comments that we've seen coming back. Not to say that you're a typical person, Greg, but the response to the dresses, I think we all agreed that the chaos needed reworking, and as we saw, there was a reworking today. So stop that. We hate Patreon, this mouse over business. I think we'll do another go round of comments for the new chaos dresses. We'll post those up today, and we'll see what everybody thinks about that.
People are demanding Greg's junk jokes.
But
it's just a thing now. It's something we have to do, apparently.
Well, next week we're going to have concept art of Greg's junk. We haven't. This is one of the things in the Alice 3 notes document I didn't want to give away because it's a spoiler. But the ultimate goal of Alice in Asylum is it's the quest for Greg's junk. You didn't?
Wow.
Did you know that?
You just spoilt it, man.
I told people there were spoilers coming. Anyway, it's going to be like the quest for the Holy Grail, but it's the quest for Greg's holy junk.
There we go. Greg's junk jokes done.
There you go.
Happy now?
Yeah. So Wendy Bratcher says, I don't love the chaos dress either. So there's a lot of agreement on that, but thought that the sleeves on the blackening dress had a similar thought about that, and likes the bell, likes the shape of the skirt at the bottom. And so I think that the blackening dress and the chaos dress, what we saw was they both got quite a bit of sort of requests for change, and I could agree with that. I thought the blackening dress, personally, I thought was also a little bit odd. It didn't feel very Alice-like to me. That's this dress.
Yeah. It's certainly got a strong aesthetic to it. And yeah, maybe it's the wrong word, but not girly enough.
I don't know about that, but I think it's the concept of sort of form over function, because this was supposed to be the moon theme, and I think that the attempt of putting the crescent shape of the moon into the bottom of the dress, it's gone a bit far. It's sort of form over function, and right. I think we want to try to remain functional as much as possible. Now, like, I saw some negative comments about the Day of the Dead style gloves. I actually like those a lot, but
yeah, I don't have a problem with those.
Yeah, strange. So Ice Killer sends along $5 to say that his comment disappeared again, and the Patreon may have black holed his comment. Not really sure what's going on there
with their third-party comment moderation.
Maybe Ice Killer is, unbeknownst to him, is on some sort of a naughty commenter blacklist, and so more aggressively being deleted.
And we had, who was that in yellow right there? The Fabs, Super Chats. Thank you very much. Missed a lot of streams. Real glad I'm able to catch this one. The Madness Returns art book is the best. Incredibly inspirational. Sorry for the Super Chat distraction. We don't mind that.
That's all right. We have a lot of comments to get through, but, Super Chats are nice. And,
yeah.
So thank you very much, the Fabs. It's very much appreciated. So Xylus Idel loves the art. Christina Quintero is saying, let's push the hell out of that aesthetic. I liked this comment a lot. Who says a kid can't dress like a miniature badass? Hello, Hit Girl. That was a good movie, Hit Girl. And but when I read this comment from Christina, it reminded me, it triggered in my mind the realization that there's another side of how we need to portray Alice in these games, and it actually had me thinking, how much of the game is she gonna be a little badass, and how much of the game ought we to dress her in a much more vulnerable, much more sort of typical style. Like, let's say she's in sort of her asylum clothes. She's dirty, torn, ripped, out of sorts. It was something that kind of struck me as, like, when we had talked previously about having her sneak around a lot more in Asylum, having her not be so super powerful all the time. It made me realize that the acquisition of the dresses could be a moment that's celebrated in a way that you might celebrate the acquisition of a weapon in sort of your traditional first-person shooter. And so is it the case that when we enter into a new domain, we do so, not dressed for the occasion? Let's say not naked, but naked in terms of free from the superhero outfit. And you have to travel through the level. Maybe it's only 5 seconds, maybe it's 5 minutes, but you travel through the level, a bit of sneaking before you acquire the dress for that zone. And
why
something
not? Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, could be. Anyway, that comment triggered in my mind that realization that she is a little girl, and she's supposed to be distraught. She's supposed to be out of sorts, and so we might want to try to communicate that in the dresses from time to time.
Yeah. Alice on Elm Street comes back to us with a super chat. Brian46 had a really cool idea. Alice's hair burning at the ends for the denial dress, and ashes flying behind her as she walks. I'm certainly hoping for lots of this sort of little artistic quirks, using the new super powerful generation of consoles to do all this. I'm certain there'll be a lot of little tips and tweaks for most dresses. At least I hope so. Why not? Ashley Velez also super chats, celebrating the last of my 20s with you guys tonight. Going to be 30 tomorrow. Have a couple of drinks with me.
Well,
loves the progress on everything and has just bought the booklet.
Wow.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Ashley. Thank you so much for gifting us on your birthday. We will definitely raise a margarita in your name this evening.
Yeah, and don't worry about the 30s. 30s are pretty good.
30s are great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's when you hit 40 that you start to realize you've wasted your life. You wish you'd bought more Apple stock when you were in your 30s. Chaussette is back. Hello, Chaussette. I really like Bald Alice from Madness Returns. Is it possible that she could make a comeback in this one? And yes, Chaussette, exactly what I was thinking was Asylum Alice, this 13-year-old girl, she ought to be a mess. I mean, I think that that's the way we want to see her represented, especially, you know, when this kind of mask comes off, when the illusion of the power and the dresses, when she first enters into Wonderland, we have that denial dress, but I was thinking when we first see her enter into the denial stage, it's that beautiful, safe, warm, welcoming Wonderland. But she may be incredibly nervous. She may be very uncertain about where she is, what is real, is this now, to borrow a line from Westworld. And it may not be until she acquires the denial dress, which again could just be right in front of her, just right up the path. And then she acquires that dress, and it's like this, she's now got the comfort of this. Of course, then when she turns around, we see, and maybe she doesn't see, but we see that the reality in the back of the dress still kind of belies the situation that she's in, that something's really wrong. But I think that Alice, as you said, Chaussette, the one who's had her head shaved and she's got the dark circles under her eyes and she's in the torn up asylum clothes, perfect. I love that image.
Feverblade super chats us. I would hope to play on more Asylum levels than Madness Returns.
I'm not sure what that means.
So you just hope there's more stages?
Okay.
I don't know.
I mean, I would agree with that comment in the sense that if you played Madness Returns, I found that the stages there were not enough, but the stages that there were too long. So what I would have liked to have seen is more of shorter stages. One of the issues with that, though, is that it sort of predicts that you're going to spend a lot more money on the production of assets, because long stages using the same assets, that is, the result you get is something like Madness Returns. Unless you have the ability to build lots of large open generic, say like outdoor areas where there's grass and trees and things that can get reused a lot, the kind of expressive creativity that we expect out of an Alice project, more diverse areas equals more spending on more diverse assets. So we're going to have to find the balance there.
Yep. Comments, or is it? Oh, it's almost time.
Well, we can do a contest really quick. So let's get everyone to light up the comments with the one-word answer to, so far, what is your favorite of these dresses that we've presented? That would be the original, Fire, Chaos, Denial,
Bargaining.
And while we're doing that, I see every once in a while this scrolls past in the comments, people saying, don't let EA ruin this, no DLC, no loot boxes. I'll just state this one more time for the record. We're not going to have pay to win, pay to play, in-app purchases, all that kind of stuff that is off the table. Did the most recent God of War have anything like that?
There was a kind... No.
So, I mean, that's just a very solid single-player, narrative-driven, linear, semi-linear action-adventure game. That's what we're going for. So, I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe there is some sort of DLC or pay-to-win shit in that game, but I never saw it. And, you know, our argument to EA or whoever finances a new Alice game would be, you don't need that. And the reason why is there's the new God of War, and that's a perfect example of customers don't want or need, and the success of a product does not want or need DLC crap or whatever in order to make it successful. So I see this comment pop up all the time, and just reiterate, we're not going in that direction.
Yep. Saw a super chat fly past.
Super chat
it was a blue one. You got to scroll to it.
Oh man. Jeez, Rick. There's super chat in the middle of the comment.
Matt.
Spaz.
More small areas and a few big ones.
Yeah, Matt, you know, the comment is well taken. Again, back to what I was saying just about, you know, the cost of assets and the production of different sizes in the games. That has to be kept in mind. So let's keep that in mind. So for the for the contest, we are going to be giving away the license proposal booklet. And excellent. So Nightbot is waiting for me to press the button. Lee M.
Well done.
All right, Lee M. You are the winner of the license proposal booklet, which I will autograph and send off to you. Please be sure to either go to my YouTube channel or write to mysterious@americanmcgee.com and provide the information required for me to send this to you. That is your name, your address, your email address, and your phone number. And as I've said before, if you neglect to provide the information in a format where I can understand it, your prize is very likely not to show up. Yeah. There were 2 super chats flying by here.
Justin Macabre. Business dress is clever for bargaining. Loves it.
That is a clever concept, but clever doesn't always win the day. You have to be clever and right.
So, yeah. Thanks for the chat, though. Brian Dale. Thank you for the chat. I'd love if while wearing the denial dress, Alice's hair is singed on the ends. As she runs, ashes can fly off. That was what someone else said earlier.
It was what someone else said.
Reiterating what you had said.
Yep. And it makes me think, I'm glad that games don't have smell-o-vision, because the smell of burnt hair as you run through a game would be... I wouldn't want to play that game.
It's not nice.
All right. So back to the comments over on Patreon. Thank you for all the super chats, by the way.
Yeah.
So we were at Christina Quintero's comment regarding the badass little girl. So yes. Drunken Cat Face, which I think Martin said is one of his favorite Patreon usernames.
Favorite usernames, that.
Thanks for the art. Says, I don't understand the patches to wallet concept. Will the patch be attached as an emblem to the front of the leather surface of the wallet? So this is in reference to, I believe I shared an image. And that image showed some work that Yen, that's my girlfriend, who is a fashion designer, so work that she had been doing, here you go, on leather wallets, which we would sew these patches onto for you, so you wouldn't have to do that. And obviously we'd be supplying a wallet as well. So yeah, I think Drunken Catface, the idea is we would make wallets, you would buy the wallets would already have the patches attached to them. So yeah, yes. There you go. To answer your question. Scrolling back down here, where'd we go? I missed it.
Down.
There's Greg. Touch my junk.
Face.
There we go. Okay. So Austin Cook, fingers crossed. Yay, financiers. Austin thinks the chaos dress is the best. That's good to know.
In the super chat today, wonder what they think of the 2 new chaos dresses.
Yeah, let's see if Austin's around today. Yeah. Stephanie Mead says she got her patches. That's good. Patches are still arriving at different places around the world. I saw one yesterday that was going to Greece or the UK or Russia, and it was still in transit.
Right.
So some places it does take longer, but they are still flying around out the world out there. Mark Muir says that he liked the Max Richter link to Vivaldi Recomposed. That is, it's some music I like to listen to when I'm working sometimes. So that was shared over there on this Patreon post.
Blood and Spike super chat says, thank you. Sorry for the delay. Don't know what delay, but okay. Will there be doll enemies again? I really like the bitch baby. In Asylum, they can be nurse dolls. I even made a concept.
Yeah, so thank you for the super chat, Blood and Spikes. The document that we shared and some of the art we've shared previously does actually show the dolls and various child toy. Here, let me give you a bigger camera there, Martin.
Shiny.
Yeah, it's not going to work. But if you go back to some of our original Patreon posts, and you will find that Joey did do some concepts for children's toys turned into monstrous enemies. So yes, those will be making a comeback, or I guess you should say that would be the first appearance.
Yeah,
we'll see. Where were we? We were in the comments, and Ember Smoke says enjoys watching the progress and wants to see. Yeah, so this is in reference to the fact that Joey was sending along some work in progress images, and everybody seems to like those. So going forward, we will share more of those via Patreon. Tawny Meyer says everything is looking awesome. I don't think I see a question in here. So, there we go. So she says, how long does it usually take to hear back from a company regarding presentations? That's a fair question. We know that the package went out, was it yesterday? And it's going to take 8 to 10 days to arrive in jolly old UK. And then we expect probably once he gets that, he's going to do a review. He's going to talk about it internally. And then there's going to be some sort of like, hey, let's jump on a call and talk about what you guys want to do. And I imagine that the largest question that they're going to have is who is going to build this. Now, we have a couple of different options. There are some development teams that are pre-existing that could do it. There are outsourced development companies, say like Virtuous is one here in Shanghai that does full-blown game development. And then there is the idea that we might build our own development team. And I had sort of thought to myself that I didn't maybe want to do this again because I've run big teams before, and I don't know. But when we were talking with, I wish we could say who it is. I'm sure people can figure it out. But anyway, we were talking with big giant megacorp guy last week, and I mentioned, he mentioned that they like doing crazy things. They're not interested in just like, hey, we want to make a game and like a basic idea. And so I explained to him a lot of the things we had in mind about Asylum as far as like linking merchandise into like the patches and patches and stuff like that. And this guy, because he previously worked at Disney, he really gets the idea of like games as a way of pushing merchandise so that you don't have to have in-game purchases. And so that really resonated, especially because this company we're talking to also does physical distribution. See these hints, they're going to figure it out. But anyway, the weird part of my pitch, because that I think he understood completely, the weird part of my pitch was that we should go and build a studio out here. This is Guilin. Now, it could be anywhere in Western China, but things around the world, cost of living is constantly going up, and to live in a big city like Shanghai and make games, it kind of feels like a zero-sum game. Like your cost for being a programmer or a 3D artist or an animator, you're gonna make more and more and more money, but at the same time, the inflation in Shanghai is just absolutely mental. So rent, food, clothes, transportation, all these things are constantly going up. Meanwhile, the environment itself, there's just too many people. And then there are places like Guilin, which is stunning, gorgeous. It's not heavily populated. The cost of living is really low. And if you could imagine that we go out to Guilin and we build, like literally, a village like this, and this village becomes our game development hub, and that's the proposal that I put out to them. I said, we want to build a town out in Western China, somewhere beautiful, and we'll house it with our team, and they will build our products for us, and they'll be happy, and they'll be healthy, and they can afford a decent way of life. And so the guy said, that's the craziest idea I've heard in a long time, or ever.
But he seemed to like it.
But he liked it. So that's something that we're working on.
Yeah.
I hope that's the way it goes. And when I mentioned the Chinese billionaires, it turns out that some of those guys are in the games business and some of them are in the real estate business. And both of these groups are interested in this because it intersects beautifully with the types of things that they normally invest in. So
excellent.
Yeah, so we'll see.
I did see a super chat scroll past a while ago.
Okay.
Yeah, just nothing said, just Mechanic Fairy. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you for the chat.
Yeah, so we'll see. But anyway, that's a very long drawn out answer to
What was the question?
The question was, how long is it going to take for the answer to come back?
Oh, yeah.
And so we stop that. So we ended up getting off into this territory where I think that's going to be the larger part of the conversation. And that weirdness, like, hey, we want to go and build a village, that can slow down the conversation to some degree, unless, of course, I say we want to build a village and, oh, by the way, these guys are going to pay for it. And in which case EA may go, great, go nuts, go have fun. We'll see.
Feverblade wants to clarify something. He meant, will we play in Rutledge more? More Bald Alice levels than Madness Returns.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I mean, I think being in and around a nightmarish version of this Alice's Asylum is perfectly fine. We should expect to see that. Yeah. And then Alice on Elm Street sends a super chat, thank you, and says, a Wonka-esque little town. Yeah.
Wonka-esque.
It's, but this is the thing. Like, I could propose that we were going to build a new game studio here in Shanghai, and it would just end up in one of these giant skyscrapers with like nondescript, office cubicles. I mean, everybody could do that. But like, how does that present any form of choice to your employees? You're hiring a bunch of creative people. Presumably, you want to house them in a creative and inspiring space, which not easy to do in the big mega city of Shanghai. Exactly. Tori sends along a massive comment.
It's a big one.
I think I might have to scan through this very quickly, but thank you for the massive comment. I do see that Tori likes the dresses, super excited to cosplay any of these dresses and designs, and does have a question regarding the dresses and thinks maybe this is thinking too far ahead, but we'll ask anyway. Is there intention to provide Alice with a different dress per level or area visited? Is there a chance for DLC dresses, like in Alice Madness Returns? So the first answer would be, yeah, I think we want to have dresses collected as we move through the game spaces. The levels will be themed after the various stages of PTSD or grief. And then, as you've seen, each of the dresses that we're coming up with right now are linked in some way into that journey. So yeah, as we move through the game, you should expect that we are collecting these dresses as we're building them out now. I'm not sure. So bargaining is definitely one of the stages, chaos would be the initial stage. Denial obviously is the stage after that. So yeah, we would be collecting those. As far as DLC dresses go, I think the answer is so long as the way we present them doesn't offend people, because obviously you've seen there's a lot of people who are very anti in-game purchase, and so we wouldn't want to present dresses where it's like you have to buy this dress in order to finish the game or in order to unlock some section of the game. So we're going to handle that as gracefully and carefully as we can.
Dave, Super Chats. Thank you very much, Dave. Feels as if it would make more sense to add bows to the back of the dresses. Alice 1 and 2 had them, and it feels like part of the character. And we also rule.
Well, I think there are bows on some of the dresses. If you look at the Denial dress, and I agree, I'm a big fan of the bows, and I'm a big fan of the skulls integrated with the bows. So I think, I think we will try to have bows.
Certainly. Big fan of bows.
Yeah. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks, Dave.
Yeah. Where were we? We were on the website. We were reading Tori's very lengthy comment. And so for something like this, it might be a little early to say exactly how, like, let's say we did do DLC. It might be a little early to say exactly how we're going to do that. But again, we'll try to, present that in as least offensive way as possible.
Yeah.
But Tori goes on to say that the palette for each is great and that the art is probably the favorite besides the games themselves. So that's good. Tori likes the wallets and says that I believe Tori's a she, would buy one and or make them myself. Yes, of course, you could always make your own wallets with the patches, which are sold over on Mysterious. So best of luck with EA. Well, thank you, Tori.
Thank you.
Jana North comes along and says, I love the art in progress. Definitely interesting to see the process. Good. We will be sure to share more of that in the future. Suvi, I want the coin purse. Good. And excited about the dresses. Awesome. The Chaos dress doesn't feel the same as the other ones. Yeah, I think we all kind of felt that way.
I think so.
Ina. Okay,
That's right.
I said it right.
Yeah.
Ina. Ina comes along. Hello, Ina. Good to see from you. Or good to hear from you. And good to see you also. Ina says, I like it when you post the artist comments to the images. Yes, I should do that more often. The Ina's meaning is that sometimes I copy and paste the email stuff, the email comments or text from the artists like Omri or Alex or Joey into the actual posts on Patreon, and people like that. I like that too. So the other comment is Omri posted a video about how he made his Harley Quinn boy image, and it was really cool to see the artist work through that. Yeah, it'd be kind of cool if we could ask Omri or Joey or someone to do sort of a time lapse as they work through one of their images.
I do like seeing those.
Yeah. There's a comment here that Ina wrote, maybe Lulu could sign some of the posters for you, which actually brings me to a very random and funny thing. I was talking with Yin last night. I don't know if this is going to show up, but I'll try. Yin said we ought to try selling or promoting or doing something with, I don't know if you can see that. That is a little Lulu, I have to back off a little bit. It's a little Lulu earring. And so Yin wants to make these. It's really hard to see. She wants to make these, and then we can give them away as prizes, and we can offer them on Mysterious. And I was thinking that the card that goes along with those little Lulu earrings could have a little Lulu paw stamp on every one of the cards. Instead of me signing it, have Lulu sign it. So I think that's one of the questions for today is, would you all like Lulu stuff?
Could we get her to do that?
To do what?
Be normal for long enough to paw stamp a substantial amount of certificates or posters.
The way you do it is you get her to do the paw stamp once, and then we do a rubber stamp off of that.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't...
Would people want that? Don't they want an official Lulu footprint?
Yeah, I think people would like that. I think that'd be really fun. So, and look, there's a lot of positive comments about that. I tried to put this earring in last night, and I found that both my left and right earring holes have closed up. So that's not good.
Did we miss a super chat? Was there a blue one?
There is one that's just gone by. They do come fast and furious.
Matt S. Will each dress have weird powers and fighting styles?
I think that the question, Matt, is a good one. I think the answer is a maybe. I think we talked about this before. I'd want to avoid a situation where like the player feels compelled to switch rapidly between dresses in order to access different powers like contained within a dress. That's not to say that we might have or might not have level or area specific dresses, like say for instance like the swimming dress that once it's acquired then it automatically turns on when you jump into water. We might have something like that, but yeah, I think we want to try to avoid like, oh, I've gone to this area, now I've got to turn on this particular dress in order to unlock some sort of power, but we'll see. Ray Weatherford, hey Ray, good to see you. Says, not sure if my Patreon comment made it through. I had a gameplay mechanic question. I don't know, Ray. I haven't seen a comment from you yet, but we're just barely making a dent in them all right now. And
jeez, Rick.
We've got more super chats coming in through here.
Yay. Nira K. Loves the new studio background. It is awesome. Thank you. Excited for the game to become a reality. Wishes they could donate hundreds of dollars, but can't. It's the thought that counts.
That's all right, Nira.
And the sec.
The point of this is that it's a sort of crowd-funded thing, and what we have going on, say for instance on Patreon right now, we're up to 1,600 or 1,700.
We're this close to 1,700.
And you just think, like, if every one of those people on average is supporting us with a couple dollars a month, that is how we're able to get all this art and stuff done, and it's working. Like, we would not have been able to put together this presentation, for instance, filled up with all this artwork if it weren't for your support via each one of you doing a few dollars a month to make art. I mean, all the art you see behind us, this is crowdfunded, it's crowd designed, and I think this is part of the kind of the new economy, and it's working really well. So don't feel bad, a few bucks here and there you can see it's going a really long way. It's amazing.
Certainly helps.
Priscilla Nasoma says, I would love a Lulu paw print on my art poster. All right. Give Lulu a dress. All right. I don't usually give Lulu dresses, but I do put her in boxes. I cut out little head holes for her and put her in boxes. She likes that.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah. Blade Siskadal once again talking about Greg's junk. Thank you, Blade. That's much appreciated.
So at this rate, Greg's junk's going to have more fans than Alice.
Maybe we ought to have a Greg's Junk t-shirt.
Maybe.
I saw Greg's Junk and I survived. That'd be a good one. So Alice on Elm Street sends $2. Thank you, Alice, and says a Lulu DLC dress. That could be cute.
Kind of a furry black and white-esque dress.
Truth Decay wants to send Greg's Junk fan art. Yeah, sure. Go for it. We're not necessarily going to show it during a stream, but you can always send it. It's not like we haven't seen it before. I mean, as soon as the streams are over and before they start up, we get ourselves all pumped up by staring at Greg's junk. So, whatever. You can't shock us. AJP sends $1.99. Thank you. And says an art print of Lulu in an Alice dress. That sounds cute.
Maybe somebody could fan art that for us.
Yeah, sounds good. And Ledelius sends CLP. A clip. 500 clip. I don't know what that is. Anyway, thank you so much for the clip.
Whatever that is, thank you.
Yes, this is good. All right, thank you.
A flurry of super chats we had there.
It went bonkers there. All right, I think we got through Ina's comment.
We did Ina.
Cherry says she loves Joey's art. and wonder if she has accounts on social media sites. I don't know if she's sharing her art up on the Chinese social media sites, but she is watching these live streams now. So, Joey, if you hear that question, do let us know if you do have another place where you're sharing your artwork, and we may be able to share that with your fans out there.
People are interested.
I think she's got this stuff shared. I think she does have stuff on DeviantArt, but you'd have to look it up under her under her Chinese name, which is Zheng Shou, and it's Zeng. Am I doing that wrong? Shuo? I'd have to go look it up. Anyway, Joey's Chinese name, I think, is the name you want to look up. Michelle Kieran loves Joey's art, and is that going to be next month's art print?
It is not. The next print is Omri's orange and black
the
gilt?
The fire or the gilt dress
one.
Yeah.
Don't know what name that art print has. Does it have a name yet?
I'm not sure. I think that's called the fire or the inferno dress. Are you talking about this one?
No, it's the inhaling of the house.
Okay. Well, that's still the inferno dress, but it's a different picture of it. It's the one where she's picked up the house model. And, okay. So apparently CLP is Chilean pesos. Ooh, cool. Thank you for the Chilean pesos. That's awesome. And I see that Gamer Epic Kate made it to the stream finally. Gamer Epic Kate, we did show your art at the beginning of the stream. It was the startup art image, so thank you for that. Everybody loved it. Everybody loves Lulu. Right, so on to more comments. Fanny Lamarche says that the dresses are amazing and wants to see some changes to the chaos dress, but then don't we all? And some different hairstyles too. Sure, could do that. Steffi Lynn loves the dresses and says that they are exquisite and is looking forward to seeing the way they flow in the game. I regret not doing the 3-for-1 deal. I want this so bad. Well, keep in mind, Steffi, and what she's referring to is if you pay on Patreon 3 months at
35,
you get to choose an art print. And so the thing is, the way that works is you go over to Mysterious and you go to the art prints and you filter the art prints by Patreon art, and this will actually show you if you are doing that 3 for 35 deal, you can choose which art print out of this selection you get. So if there is an art print that has gone by in prior months and you're interested in getting that, you can either buy it directly or you can space out the purchase over on Patreon and select it that way.
Yep.
Yep.
Not much to add to that.
All right. Addison Levette says, I think that the guilt was actually a really good name of that Inferno dress. If you feel guilty, you feel responsible. And if Alice feels responsible for the death of her family, then she probably feels like a terrible monster causing destruction and death everywhere she goes. Yes, this is true. Also likes the Chaos dress. And I don't think there's any questions in here. So we're going to continue on. I don't get the Padme vibes, she says, from her hair, at least not until American brought it up. Oops.
It's definitely there.
But likes the art and likes the dresses. And Rob Birch says, I thought the bandages represented her suffering burns in the house fire. Well, they can represent all kinds of stuff.
Amanda Darko Super Chat says, if the game will be available on PS4.
This goes back to the answer I gave a little bit earlier in this stream, that the destination platforms can and will depend largely on where the financing comes from, who the distribution partners are, timing, things like that. But assuming that the PS4 is still a valid and viable platform 2+ years from now, or it's a platform like, this was actually part of the conversation we had with Super Mega Evil Corp last week, was let's not push to have the game be quadruple A launch title on PS5, 3 years from now. Let's go after the what's going to be the very well established market of PS4 owners 2.5 years from now, and let's focus on making the game super excellent, like using the available technology to the greatest extent possible based on all the learning and mistakes and everything that's happened on those platforms. And I liked that idea. And what I liked was that Super Evil Megacorp guy also liked that idea. So
it's a good idea.
Yeah.
In sort of like wishy thinking, it would be great to think, let's do it for PS5 and we can throw 1 trillion billion polygons at Alice's hair. I think it makes more sense to just have it done on established, well-known platforms.
Well, I think a lot of people don't get that oftentimes there's a trade-off that comes when you're trying to push the bleeding edge, and you're trying to push the envelope on the technology and the hardware. You're going to lose some of the fidelity, of the quality, of the emphasis on other elements of the game in the pursuit of trying to make these other aspects. And maybe you're not going to lose out, but it means that much more money has to be spent. And we could end up in a place where the development is a lot more efficient financially and production-wise, and also the game is better if we're not devoting resources to kind of pushing the edge of the envelope. So, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
I wish I could give you a clearer answer, but we're still early days.
Yep.
Okay, so Jessica Goyette says, wow, I really love all these dresses. Brooklyn Harding loves to see the work in progress art, and because she is an artist, likes to get insight into how this art is made. Broken Creations loves all of this and does have a question, though. Ooh. I was one of the patrons who was supposed to receive the patches in the mail and haven't received them yet. This actually brings us to a comment I wrote, which is please submit some more support questions via the message system. The reason is that we don't a lot of times go through these comments like on a daily basis, and if you have a question or a problem and you post it in the comments, we may not see that until we're doing comment review, and as you've seen, we don't always get to do comment review. So if you really want a message on Patreon seen, then send it as a PM. And sending a PM is not anything to do with this community tab. Stop posting questions in the community tab. There you go. So I think Broken Creations, did you deal with that eventually?
I've dealt with some. The name doesn't sound familiar. I can recheck.
Okay. Like Blade's comment here.
Should replace Amazon Echo Alexa with Martin. Sorry. For those of you who have just joined us, yes, we know my microphone's broken. Sorry.
And
we're going to fix it.
I've been super chatted into oblivion not to bother Martin about his echoey microphone. I'm not supposed to say anything about why Martin's microphone is echoing, so I'm not. Okay. Leela Naz Grenez? How would you say that? Gune. I think it's also worth mentioning that the blackening dress would be much prettier if it were shorter. Okay.
Let's have a look.
We'll have to take a look at that. I hadn't really thought about it. I do want to be careful that we don't put super short skirts and dresses on a 13-year-old girl in our game. That could be misinterpreted by some, but yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
So there is an idea, shorten the dress. I think we want to just flatten out the bottom edge of the dress, personally.
Right.
Yeah. There's another comment, but first, contest time.
Slightly late contest time, but we get to it.
We did get to it.
Yeah.
And we're going to do yet another license proposal, for those of you who don't know.
Light up the chat.
Let us know how much you love Martin's Echo.
I'm sure it's going to get a lot of love, but I don't like it. I'm close to taking my headphones off, because it's really annoying me.
How do you think we feel?
Plus I've got hot ears.
See, I mean, once this thing is over, we're going to sit down and we're going to try this out. And it's not bullying, but I just feel like I sat over there. Time for another giveaway.
Here's the spamming.
There is the spammening.
The spammening.
The spammening has begun. We do have quite a lot of people piling up over here with Nightbot for this giveaway.
Give it a little longer.
This is the Asylum license proposal. It will be sent out to you via express mail, and I will personally sign it, and Martin and I will send it, and we may even include a little bit of Lulu hair if you're lucky.
We will.
She's effed off this morning. She's, I think she's been driven away by Martin's echo.
Maybe.
I think so.
We did experiment having her behind us, but it didn't really work out.
Not unless you like the constant squeaking of her little pig toy. No. All right, we now have a ton of eligible users piled up over here with Nightbot, so we are going to roll it, giving away the Alice Asylum license proposal in 3, 2, 1. Blade Siskadal.
Look at that. Did
Wow.
Blade win anything recently?
You know, we're always really horrible at that, but Blade, you've been around long enough to know that in order to receive your signed license proposal, you will need to submit your email address, your phone number, your mailing address. You might want to mention, I don't know, that you won. And you could do that at mysterious@americanmcgee.com or via the business contact button on YouTube. If you include, if you somehow manage to get a picture of Greg's junk and include that in the email, we'll send you 2 license proposals.
No, Blade, you won the proposal, not patches.
Stop that. You won proposal, not patches. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So Leela is back with another comment. This is just about the shortening. But the second comment says, I like the chaos dress, but my goodness, the blues and greens are so repulsive. Omri is very clearly a very talented artist, but I hope the chaos concept gets a update. Okay, well, repulsive is a strong word, but yeah. Cassie wants to say thank you for introducing her to the Vivaldi. Yes, if you like classical music, and if you know who Max Richter is, he was, for instance, he did the music for Interstellar, along with, what is that right? Is it Hans Zimmer and Max Richter? Maybe I'm thinking, I can't remember now. But anyway, go check out Max Richter's stuff. But yeah, the link to his Vivaldi recomposition is in that Patreon post, and it's quite good. Astria Visual, who's in our chat today, says, likes the Alchemy Wallet 2.0 since the original sold out. That's true. We did sell out all those. Stephanie D likes the Denial dress. Well, of course, because your last name is probably Denial hidden in that D. Stephanie Denial. I do feel like some of the other dresses silhouettes are a bit more mature and older looking. I agree with that. I think that the silhouettes are really important, and I think in the redesign phase, we are going to be spending a bit of time to look at the silhouettes, because silhouettes are very, very important. I'm behind, she says, but knows that we're working on these tarot cards, which her sister reads, and they are jammed with symbolism, and she's interested in buying tarot deck, but is disappointed when the cards don't have all the details. Well, don't worry, we love jamming symbolism into all kinds of places, just like Greg likes jamming his junk into all kinds of places.
And we do have tarot images and emails flying back and forth as we speak.
Yeah, that's true. Alex was off on a away time, and he's back now, and he's starting work on tarot frames and backs, so that's good. Yeah.
Super chat, Blade Siskadal. I feel this super chat is needed. Thank you so much. I was praying if I'd win the license proposal. So freaking happy. Sorry, chat room. Don't know what you're apologizing for. But
yeah, it's okay. Congratulations.
Yes, you did indeed win.
Congratulations, Blade. Awesome. Awesome sauce.
I did check. It hasn't won anything recently. Just got one of those names.
Yeah, well, we see it a lot, and there you go. Yeah. So Priscilla Nosoma says, nice to see that our opinions are taken into consideration. Well, that is the whole point of this entire process, is to get feedback from the fans. It's something that I'm really enjoying myself. Really glad that we can do this. And if you've not seen it, you guys should head over to the Asylum Wiki. That is at americanmcgee.com/Asylum Wiki. And there you will find that we are putting all of this information about the design and the dresses and the story and all that stuff is going there on the wiki. So go and take a look. Speaking of which, we're going to run out of time before we've had any chance to review the story stuff.
Oh, jeez.
That's not good.
The story stuff is on the wiki.
The story stuff is up on the wiki, but that doesn't allow people who are here in the chat and for us to go through that. But if you do want to kind of follow along, you could go over to americanmcgee.com/Asylum Wiki and you can click on the story bit. I do think in the interest of time, we're going to have to leave the comments alone. And so I apologize if you were in the comments section on Patreon and we did not get to your comments. I think Martin and I have mentioned this before. We might need to start doing this
more selectively. Before the streams, we'll go through the comments and we'll pick out some really good questions.
That, but also maybe doing this twice a week.
Oh, that.
Yeah, because it seems like one time a week is just not enough. I don't know. Maybe we finish up the comments and do the story in the next stream. Ooh.
Don't know.
Yeah. Why don't we just take a quick look at the story stuff?
All right.
Let's do this. We're going to look at the story stuff, and then we are going to go to one more contest giveaway at the top of the hour, and then we'll be kind of wrapping it up. So there you go.
As he scratches his eye. Truth Decay. Will you restock Chaos Teas on Mysterious?
Yeah, the problem is they ran out of this particular stretchy, it's a amazing material, by the way. I love this shirt. That's why I wear it all the time now. They ran out of this particular material and they wrote and they said, we're out of this material for that shirt. I just haven't got around to going over there and selecting an alternative material /shirt. So I do need to do that. That's my fault. Too much other stuff going on.
But yes, eventually.
We will try. So let's just go through this really quick. This is something that is the result of my work with RJ Berg. And for those of you who don't know, RJ and I have been working together since we were introduced for the first Alice game back when we were both employees at Electronic Arts. That was back in 1998, 97. I mean, it's talking like a long time ago. We're now looking at 20 years ago.
It's a long time.
So when I first met RJ, he had been working at EA for already 12 or 13 years. He was among the first employees working there. He's a writer by trade. He had actually been one of the guys. I think he edited the first Madden football manual. And if you look him up, you'll see that he did a series of games of his own, the probably most famous of which was based on Sherlock Holmes. So if you go look up the EA presentation of the Sherlock Holmes games, those are RJ's. So I came up with the Alice concept, but RJ and I were stuck together. So RJ would work as the executive producer, and he also worked with me to write the story, so the dialogue in the games, like all those quotes that you hear from the Cheshire Cat that are so famous. Those are RJ's work. And so he and I have been working back and forth on Asylum, and that's a series of phone calls and emails and meetings in person to discuss how it is we're presenting the prequel, how we're presenting Alice Asylum. So as we go into this, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alerts.
If you do not want to have your things spoiled, then I would recommend that you poke out your ears now, but not not just yet.
Ice Killer has a suggestion on the live stream for the burning house post. Wants everyone's opinion. What was that? Can we quickly get to that, I wonder?
I see. So I think Ice Killer's point is that over on Patreon is a burning house post, and he's demanding that we go and read that. Is that?
That sounds like that's what's happening.
I see. Okay. Well, let's scroll through Patreon here. There's the burning house, and there is Ice Killer. Ice Killer's comment is, "I love Greg's junk, and here is my suggestion on how to get the most, if not all, comments on Patreon. Host 2 live streams per week." Yeah, well, Ice Killer, we just said that. We just said we might need 2 live streams per week. And also, the comment is 1 live stream will be for the EU audience and the other for the rest of us. Now, this is not a bad idea. And actually, the way that life works now is Martin comes over here in the morning. You arrived at like 7 this morning.
7:15. There was a traffic jam.
And then Martin hangs out and spends the night. That's one of the benefits of having this larger place, is that there's a guest room now, so Martin doesn't have to sleep in the same bed with me and Yin and Lulu, because that was getting very farty and hot.
Getting awkward.
It was awkward. And so yeah, it could be the case that we actually wrap up this stream, do a bunch of our work, and then tonight at 6 p.m. do another stream.
Could do. 2 streams in one day.
Well,
power on through.
There you go. So, yes, Ice Killer, your comment has been read. Now, back to the story.
Spoilers.
If you could, please understand, there are spoilers ahead. But a lot of this you may know. What we've done here is listed out a basic chronology. So this is by way of writing up the outline for where it is we're going to go with this narrative. And an outline is almost always where you start when you're embarking upon an epic narrative writing journey. So this is the way that RJ and I can be sure that we agree on the larger details of what it is that we're trying to create before we go into the finer details of scene by scene, chapter by chapter, line by line of dialogue. Now, as most of us know, these have been listed in recent Patreon posts, and so we have Alice Asylum taking place 1863 through 73. AMA is American McGee's Alice. I think RJ's suggestion here is maybe we want to call that something different, just because, Asylum suggests that it's the start. She's in the asylum, and Madness Returns obviously feels like a sequel to whatever's happened in the middle there, but American McGee's Alice doesn't really doesn't fit.
So you need to give it another name.
Yes, exactly. So during the 1860 to 63 period, now this would be prior to the fire, this would be prior to Asylum, we understand that Alice is much like the Alice that everyone knows from the books. That is, she's a bright child, she has a susceptible imagination, she goes into Wonderland, and this is an exciting refuge from her predictable middle-class life in Oxford. She goes back to Wonderland often because it's loaded with marvelous characters and exotic locations. It's safe, even though at times it can feel like there's threats and there's a bit of adventure. She's never actually physically harmed, and it is filled with unique challenges. So it supplies to her, as a young girl, vivid drama, multiple brands of fun, and an ability for her to internally manage her fears and to overcome and build up her confidence. So I think we all get this, but it's good to have a shared touch point for who Alice is before the adventure begins. But I don't think there's anything really, controversial.
I don't think so.
Written here. I think that RJ is starting to touch on the point that Wonderland is the refuge of choice as Alice goes into adolescence. And, of course, we're seeing Alice grow. And the point that RJ makes in this paragraph is that as Alice grows and ages, we also see Wonderland growing and changing and aging to mirror what's happening to her.
Okay. Super Chat. Alistaria, thank you. Have you considered having novels written based on the Alice games, like they've done with Assassin's Creed, BioShock, and Dragon Age?
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to try to do that this time around again. One of the reasons that we're working to get hold of the license in the way that we've proposed is that it would give us the flexibility and the freedom to then produce that sort of content. And again, this goes back to the hopeful collaboration with sort of a super mega evil corp who focuses on the production and distribution of merchandise, including books. That's been part of the conversation we've had with them. And so, hopefully we'll get a series of books done.
Yay.
That would be good.
It would.
Back to the story. So I think we all understand who she is prior to the fire and what Wonderland is to her as a refuge prior to that moment. So he's now listed out a potential opening for Alice Asylum. So this would be, the game starts up and we see a cinematic in which two doctors enter Alice's room. Now, one of them is Grantham, who is mentioned in the Alice casebook, and he's mentioned as something mysterious, obviously dark, happens and he dies. And I don't think we've put a very fine point on exactly how it is that he dies, but it's I think clear enough that it's his interactions with Alice that result in his death. And so what we have here is a back and forth between Grantham and another doctor. And which doctor it is here, I don't know that it's terribly clear, but I think it's the managing director of St. Bart's, which is the hospital that they're in. St. Bart's being the location, the hospital she was taken to just after the fire. And this is where I believe that her fire wounds were sort of healed before she was then taken on to Rutledge. So this is in effect the conversation that takes place whereby these doctors decide that it's time to move her from the traditional hospital into an asylum. And so this is a good way of us starting off the story to describe her state, that she is virtually deaf, dumb, and blind. She's been comatose for months, and we see here that Grantham is saying, look, her silence is often, this silence like this is often a sign of suffering and trauma. So while they may not have sort of diagnosed PTSD back in this day, what we now call PTSD used to be called, for instance, in the World War I era, was shell shock. And so this would have taken place, obviously, in 1830 something. This is prior to World War I. 1860. But they still would have had some experience with shock. And so they would have some understanding that trauma, severe trauma like that Alice has experienced, would result in the kind of signs of behavior that these two doctors are seeing.
Super chats coming in. Torihimi Daika again. Thank you. Is Asylum going to talk more about Bumby pre-fire?
Yeah, so far, RJ and I think, have agreed that we're going to leave him out of the conversation. We're leaving him out of the narrative. The reason being that he's not really relevant to he's not really the obstacle she's trying to overcome at this point. You need to look at the way the narrative is going to be split up. Let's say when Asylum is finished, you would be able to look at Asylum as her. That's actually the point of this Salve et Coagula. That's the part of the kind of chaos theme. It's that the fire and the PTSD in effect destroy her. And so the first challenge she has is, after being destroyed and being in the depths of PTSD, she has to reform. And that American McGee's Alice, the battle in which, the battle that she fights in American McGee's Alice, which is the internal psychological battle against the emotions that were brought upon her by the death of her family, that battle can't take place until she becomes, in effect, until she is able to pick up the weapons. And she can't do that so long as she's in this broken non-state, this dissolved and broken state. And then by the time she gets to Madness Returns, she's left the psychological realm in most ways, and she's fighting against a real-world foe, and that is Bumby. So at the time when she's 13, and this Asylum story is unfolding, I think she's in no state to face or confront or even be aware of a Bumby or the Bumby connection to her story. So there you go.
There you go. No Bumby. You heard it here first. Kendall Straley, sending much love to the boys and Lulu. This will be their last active live stream due to a new job. Congratulations. You guys are amazing, and take care of yourselves. Thank you.
Well,
Try to take care of myself a bit.
You should take care of yourself, Martin.
I should.
Especially in confronting or having to be in the same environment with me, because apparently I'm constantly attacking and bothering you.
It's true. You don't believe that the microphone is broken.
No. And it's a good thing the camera's cutting off right here, because if you saw, Martin is actually not allowed to wear pants, and he's all bruised and black and blue from the waist down. So
it's true.
It's true.
It's a big pile of cane over there that gets hit with.
Yeah, it's a sad situation what's going on down here in the dungeon. All right. So anyway, Kendall, thank you for the $5. She's probably sitting there going, I don't want to come back. What's wrong with these guys? But thank you for the super chat, and good luck with the new job.
Yes.
Alice on Elm Street sends along a $2 super chat and says, maybe not Bumby, but the centaur she imagined. Yeah, look, I mean, there's no reason why we can't have, visual hints or thematic cues that you and I and Martin and everyone understand to be analogs to or representations of the evils that exist in the real world. But to have an actual Bumby in the game, I don't think we're going to go there. But, to have, sort of hints at shadows of those things, there's nothing bad or wrong about that. There you go.
There you go.
All right, so we need to continue along here, or we're going to never get through this reading. Although I'm not going to read all of this bit for bit, but just give you sort of a general overview of what's going on here. So again, spoiler warnings. If you've just joined, you may not want to hear all this. So RJ's done up a second version of this, but you understand that whichever version we're looking at, the conversation is essentially one in which one of the doctors is imploring the other doctor to please be done with this broken patient, that there is literally nothing that can be salvaged here, that she's finished and that she really only deserves to be discarded and put into an asylum and forgotten. So
it's not nice.
It's not nice, but version 1 is an appeal to, I guess, Grantham's sense of his self, of his reputation, and the second one is more of an attack directly on Alice, without Grantham in the room. So it's a sort of the same doctor, the managing director of St. Bart's, is just basically laying into Alice and reading her the riot act without Grantham present. Now this would suggest that the second version is one that takes place after the death of Grantham. So in effect, Grantham's death, one way or another, is going to be connected to her leaving this hospital. The question is, do we meet Grantham prior to the death, and or do we hear of Grantham for the first time after he's already died? But this guy is obviously pretty unhappy. Now, I like the idea. I like the version in which this guy comes in and we see that Grantham's already dead. But I could also imagine that in this cinematic, we are able to have some sort of flashbacks or flash asides to Grantham, and Grantham meeting some sort of untimely end. So we'll see.
We will.
We will.
We have a super chat. Extra super chat. If Martin the Font Lord, it's me, can pronounce their last name right, it's either Straley or Straley. If I had to put money on it, I would go with Straley.
I'd go with Straley.
Kendall Straley. Nah, it's got to be Straley. Is it R or A?
We'll find
Let us
out.
know. And another one, Panic Enabled. Would the Queen be there yet? Or is she non-existent yet? What style graphics would be there? And will Alice get a helper? There's lots of questions.
Yeah, it's not just question, that's questions. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 questions. Yeah, I mean, the Queen will be there. And actually, we have 2 queens. And in this version of the narrative, we probably want to deal with the fact that the Red Queen and the Queen of Hearts are kind of smashed together in the subsequent games. And so I think that there's probably going to be some sort of a political drama that unfolds between those 2 queens. The graphics style, again, this goes back to where the source of funding comes from, the type of platform that we're building for these kinds of things. But no matter what, I mean, the Alice games have always been art games, I guess you could say. They've always been very well received as a function of the art contained within, and so we will of course strive to make them as artistically beautiful as possible. Then the question of, will Alice get a helper in Wonderland? So yeah, this is something we've been talking about quite a bit. The Cheshire Cat has never been a great helper. I mean, he's there, and he's been able to be summoned, and he does provide kind of feedback or suggestions from time to time. But I've actually been thinking about something like the White Rabbit as a more active helper. If you recall, at the start of American McGee's Alice, when Alice is woke up in the asylum, it's because the White Rabbit, kind of turns and comes to life and says, "Wake up, Alice." And so I've been thinking, would it make sense, would it be cool if the White Rabbit played a more active role as a support character who is someone that she's following? Now, I'll admit, I got this idea from Man of Boy, or Father Disappointment Simulator, aka God of War 2018. I really like the fact that Boy pulls us forward into the action constantly. You're kind of you're having this constant feeling of like, I owe it to him to protect him and not let him get into trouble, but the fucker keeps running off down the path. But what he's doing though is he's pulling you constantly into the story, into the action. So you never, like, it's a very uncomfortable feeling that, like, well, but I want to explore around this area and break some more of these vases, but you can't, because he's already run off down the path, and a lot of times he's down there going, look at this, and you're like, just sit still. But I think that's a really fantastic mechanic and way of pulling the player through the action, and not just that, but grounding you in a sense of the world that is it's kind of predicated on the view of the world as seen through the eyes of another. Now, one of the things that's nice about Crouton and Sun is that Sun, boy, he's never been out and seen any of this stuff before. Whereas if we have the rabbit, we're going to have to come up with some sort of conceit where he's also maybe lost. And that could be part of what you're trying to do. It's like, yeah, you're following the white rabbit, but the white rabbit himself is uncertain of where he is because the world has been blown apart, right? So we'll see. Yeah. We have a $2 super chat from Message Retracted. All right.
Thanks.
There you go.
We have another one from PJ Calamity. Suggestion. Cheshire is a projection of Grantham. Fleeting, semi-helpful, and ghost-like, but ultimately gone too soon to help.
Yeah, it's a kind of interesting idea. I think that the Cheshire being an echo or projection of one of the real-world characters, of course, we do that. We do have, a character like the Hatter is sort of mirrored by a character in the real world. You see that in Madness Returns. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about who the Cheshire is an analog for, but we could look into that. Could be interesting. Yeah. I think it's time for a contest.
It is. We've gone well past.
We have.
Again. Sorry.
Right. Well, the contest is, once again, we're going to give away... Where is it, Martin?
It's right here in my hand.
Let's let Martin hold that
proposal.
Up. The license proposal.
Look at this. Look at it go.
This will be autographed and mailed. Why don't we have everyone go bonkers in the chat?
Apparently you got it right with Kendall's name. Straley, you said, didn't you?
I did. Yes. All right. Well, I think, you guys spam the chat.
Spam the chat.
Spam the chat with what you think Martin and Americans should have for lunch today, because pretty soon here we're going to have to go off to lunch.
Yeah.
Got all kinds of options outside.
I'm kind of hungry.
There's a Mexican, Spanish place across the street that's got extremely yummy margaritas.
I like the margaritas, but I struggle to find any food that I liked in there.
They suffer this problem of being a little too fancy for their own pants. If they would stick to things like margaritas and nachos, we would be perfectly happy over there. But because it's not a Mexican restaurant, it's actually a Spanish restaurant, their menu selection leaves a lot to be desired. So...
Yeah.
Someone said pizza in Italian. There is that very yummy pizza place right down the street.
Just down the road.
That means you're going to have to ride...
Going there again.
You're going to have to ride on the back of my scooter with me, Martin.
Has Yenny taken the scooter?
She's taken her scooter.
Oh.
Yep. So get ready for a bit of a man-o-man scooter ride, Martin.
Oh, man.
Oh, geez, Rick. What's that? Never mind. All right, here we go. We've filled up the... chat with all kinds of spam.
Okay.
And there we go. Rainbow Vixen. Congratulations on winning the 4th prize of today's stream. That is the signed Alice license proposal. Connected for OBS.
Uh-oh. Did we just lose connection?
I don't know.
Ooh.
It's back again. But yeah, so you will want to... it's getting super laggy. Spam broke the stream.
Maybe it did.
That's really weird. Maybe it did. All right, let's try to get through this really quick. There's a ton of content. Now, what I would suggest is that you guys go round to the wiki and you look at this and then you write your comments about this over on Patreon. You can try doing that here on YouTube, but we don't really read a lot of the comments on YouTube.
I do.
Martin
I always
does.
go through them.
You're a much better man than I, Martin.
For comment reading.
Yeah, we've already established this. So yeah, in this second version of the interaction at the start is the doctor telling Alice, "You suck, get out." And so we then see a transition. Now we are in a cinematic. It's nearly a year to the date of the fire. And this would be Alice in the asylum. And this is basically, sort of the start of the trip. And this is a back and forth between two nurses. Of course, these nurses may be represented by Tweedledee and Tweedledum in Wonderland. And so Alice overhears the two of them describing just how psychotic Alice is, and also hinting at her involvement in his demise. So it's been a year, and this is not yet in Rutledge. This is just prior to being sent to Rutledge, as is described here. So she's to Rutledge in a day or two. And we then transition into the 1864. This is the period, November 11th, where Dr. Wilson has written into the casebook the arrival at Rutledge. And so, as RJ says, the action of Alice Asylum is then going to take place in this 6-month window that is marked by the entrance of Alice into Rutledge Asylum. But there's a couple of points here that RJ makes, and that is that just because she didn't talk doesn't mean she wasn't listening. Now, I think one of the reasons we want to point this out is that we have the opportunity for there to be flashbacks to the things that she overheard and the things that she saw while she was at St. Bart's. And so this is sort of an anchor point for that. We also have a comment here that clearly she knows about the fire, and there's unresolved questions about the fire which continue to confound her. Again, an opportunity for exploration of those memories through flashbacks or other types of mechanics in the game.
Super chats coming in. Ice Killer. I was helping with our wiki and Reddit. Comment about the story on the Alice Asylum Reddit. Certainly, we can put some links up there and mention it, no problem. And Blade Siskadol super chats, just for me being a proper gentleman. Not sure what I did that was gentlemanly, but thank you anyway.
There you go.
It's kind of built in to all Englishmen.
There it is. So the continuation of the information that is not in Alice's file, but things that we will know, and that we being us, the writing team, about Alice's state. And then, of course, you have to keep in mind that our knowledge of these things as we write, this is the foundation for our ability to have her recall events that took place at Bedlam or events on the night of the fire. Of course, there is going to be that sort of revisiting of major narrative elements. So we as the writers need to know that she knows this, but of course the people around her don't know these things. Of course, Alice is in grief and mourning at the death of Dr. Grantham. So what's being set up here is an ability for us to write in story and issues for Alice, obstacles for Alice. Again, this is related to trauma, but it's also related to the way in which she approaches other people in the world that is going to link back to Grantham. So obviously this is going to create a character which is reluctant to form meaningful bonds with people in the real world. And now she's going to feel a desire to move back into Wonderland, but this is coupled with a fear that she might pollute Wonderland with the toxic recollections of the fire and the death of her friend Grantham. So this is all of this important sort of foundational work that we can then build upon as the story is written for what takes place during Asylum. Questions, Martin?
I was just looking at the chat.
Any questions in the chat?
Well, we've got one here. Who's Grantham?
So Grantham, that's a good question. So if you go back and you look at the casebook. The casebook was a little booklet that came with the original Alice game. Grantham is mentioned in the casebook as a character, as one of the doctors from the first hospital where Alice was admitted on the night of the fire. And once she arrives at Rutledge, which is the asylum, she arrives there about a year after going to the first hospital. It's mentioned in the casebook that Grantham, one of the doctors that was looking after her, died. But it's not super clear exactly how or why. And so that is going to be one of the points that we want to explore. One of the mysteries to be solved. You can't have a story without a question.
Can you not?
Not a good one.
Okay.
So this is going to be among the questions that we're trying to answer. Who was Grantham to Alice? And exactly how did that relationship somehow result in his death?
So it's certainly a suspicious death, is it?
Well, that's the only kind of good death. At least as far as writing a story goes, that's the perfect kind of death, is a suspicious death. Remember, you're talking to, or you're reading content from a guy who wrote Sherlock Holmes games. And so if when I'm sitting down and talking to RJ, a lot of times we're talking about the mystery. We're talking about the questions, because you can't have you cannot have a good story without basic questions being established. Why? Who? Where? What? Right.
It wouldn't be a very good Sherlock Holmes if at the end it just like, oh, he was just old. He had a heart attack.
There you go.
The end.
There you go.
Fifth Dream Super Chats. Thank you very much. I don't know how feasible this is, but it would be great if each area of the game and stage of grief would be a completely different art and music style.
Yeah, I think putting aside the budget issues that may arise from something like that, it would be, let's say it's feasible. I would be concerned that it presents as very schizophrenic, and it also would be so from a narrative perspective, why is Alice in a different art style? Why does everything change so radically? The other thing is that from an artistic standpoint, our art team would feel schizophrenic. They would have to establish and then stick with particular styles for particular areas. Then, like I said, there's a potential art, the cost issue that arises. But yeah, could be.
It's a could be.
Could be. Yeah. So there's some questions here, like Shoujo Sparkleman. Is it possible that Grantham's death was related to Bumby covering up his later acts in Madness Returns, since Bumby in this story is technically around in the background? Well, yes, Shoujo. This is exactly why you want to present the question, because the questions then present lots of potential answers. Those potential answers are the meat of the story. That is the whodunit. You know, it's like we've been watching this incredibly terrible. It's called oh man, I can't even remember. I mean, I don't even want to like say its name for fear that. But anyway, it's a TV show, and it's sort of like somebody. You know, there's a woman in it who's completely tattooed all over her body, and then the tattoos keep leading to the clues that she, as like some sort of magical FBI agent, is going off to solve. And so it's just every episode is like another clue, another question. And so what's happened is they've taken the whole like, well, you can't have a story without a question, and they've literally tattooed it on a woman's body. And at the start of every episode, it's like, hey, we're the FBI, but we've got nothing literally to do other than one by one work through the questions that are tattooed on this woman's body. Now, from a ease to produce an episode around a question, it's great, but it's just so random and weird that it comes off every episode feeling really forced and random and weird. It doesn't unfold naturally, you know. So
sounds amazing.
Ugh. But I'm like hate watching it though. So Ice Killer sends along another super chat and says the casebook has been mentioned many times. It should be republished again. Some of us are probably confused about it when you mention it. Ice Killer, I do believe that the casebook can be found over on the Alice Wiki. So go to look that up. I think if you just punch in Alice casebook to Google, it'll give you some sort of link.
But not our wiki currently.
No, it's not on our wiki, but it probably should be.
Yes.
And we do have a PDF that one of the fans sent along that I've been using as reference, and thank you to that fan for doing that. But yeah, good point taken. We ought to put that up there somewhere so people have some sense of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so back to the story. And this is going to start off with a broken and crazy Alice asking these questions. What's wrong with me? Was the fire my fault? Who's to blame, if not me? And did they save me and lose themselves? These are all questions that a person suffering PTSD would be questioning. Why? And the unanswered why is, generally speaking, one of the greatest sources of pain when it comes to suffering this sort of trauma. That you cannot answer that question. You go over and over and over and over again in your head trying to answer that question, and that is what kind of makes the trauma because you can't stop reliving it. And so we're seeing that manifest in the dialogue snippets here. Why did I survive? Did Dinah, that was her cat, escape? Where is that Cheshire cat? If only... So these also represent the stages of bargaining. You know, this is denial to start with. Maybe they're on holiday without me. This is denial, right? And what's wrong with me? These are anger. This is self-blame. And so this is all a manifestation of the trauma. And of course, this is a bit of survivor's guilt on top of all of that. So she's wondering, is this a dream? That's, again, the denial stage. She's invested in that dream, and she's hoping that the dream might make it easier to cope or manage this with this situation or just disappear. But she knows something is wrong with herself. And she does decide, she makes a psychological or a mental decision that she's going to close her eyes and to retreat to Wonderland. And I think we're going to want to try to portray this in some powerful way, because this is her retreating from a problem, a state that she's been stuck in for, a year or more. And for anyone who's suffered with trauma and realizes that, the trauma, that the PTSD, it doesn't go away. You examine it, you hold on to it, you examine it, you think about it, you talk about it, and it's constantly there. And, she's struggling with, and has been struggling with this entire time, the option to retreat into Wonderland, to run away from this problem. But then that's also coupled with, again, the fear that running away to Wonderland may drag the problem into Wonderland. And of course, as we see, it does. She takes this with her. Now, initially, she's going to see Rabbit. And again, this is what I had said. I'd like to have Rabbit be more of a significant character in this version of the game in Asylum. RJ's done something in the writing here where she actually arrives, and the first thing that she sees is a blown apart Wonderland, a fragmented version of Wonderland. And there's nothing familiar, comforting, consoling, safe, or enjoyable about it, he says. Now, I think we need to work on this because, as we've discussed in some of the previous live streams, she's arriving in the denial stage. And that looks much like what she expects. It's clean and it's safe and it's green and it's happy. But the way that RJ's written this here, that's not where she lands. She lands in the blown apart, destroyed, fragmented version of Wonderland. And so we need to decide which one is it. Or maybe it's kind of both. She may arrive in the fragmented Wonderland, but perhaps by donning the denial dress, we then see the entire landscape switch back to the expected Wonderland, the beautiful, lush, green, safe Wonderland. And she may run around that for a while until some point where she cannot ignore the cracks and the problems in the landscape any longer. So we're gonna have to work on that.
Remember, we talked about that a little bit in the past, didn't we? But it was kind of duplicating the assets for like broken Wonderland and then normal Wonderland could be maybe not the best thing.
Yeah. Someone, Rainbow Vixen in the chat says, what if she lands in the fragmented Wonderland, but she doesn't notice the cracks? That was the original concept that we had, was she would land in the denial stage, which is beautiful, which is green and lush and feels safe. But around every corner, there'd be something we'd catch out of the corner of our eye, which would sort of seem to suggest that all was not right, that there was some problem, that there was something broken, but that she wasn't seeing it just yet, and that the more you explored and the more time you spent there, the more it sort of started to unravel, the more you started to realize that things were broken. And that's how I'd been thinking about it for a while. And then, we have this version where RJ has suggested that we go straight into a broken Wonderland. Again, we'll have to kind of wrestle with this a bit. I don't know exactly which version of the start we want to go for, because there are ways to make either of these work, and it may not be super critical that we go one way or the other, because one way or another, it's still the start of the adventure. And I think the question is, how significant is the representation of Wonderland? If you look here, this is denial. This is what we had done way back when we first started this process. Joey had done this version of Wonderland as denial. And so you see she's wearing the original dress, the blue dress, and she comes into this beautiful, clean, happy, safe version of Wonderland. And then we start to see the cracks. Now, it could be this, or it could be we come into the blown up, broken apart, totally effed version of Wonderland. We're going to have to sort this out.
Plenty of time for that.
There is plenty of time. So this is one of those questions. So, in the comments below or over on Patreon, you guys talk about it a little bit. This will be something that I'm working through back and forth with RJ, though. Because it is a big question. I don't think that it's like a world-ending question, but it is an important question. So, he has described Wonderland as we have been talking about it, which is that it's a series of islands suspended in space. These are little planets in a sunless, starless galaxy. So, again, for me, I'd like to see her come into the traditional expected version of Wonderland, and then she goes around a corner, she turns a corner, or something happens, and it all falls apart. Like the scales fall off her eyes, as they say. Like the reality of the destruction of the world. Maybe it kind of looks like this, but then we get I don't know, we get kind of like a wipe of a big burning, screwed up section of Wonderland, like kind of trailing across the sky, and it wipes out everything that we think we see, and what's left behind are the planets burning and smoking and floating out in this chasm, this orbit of broken bits. So we'll see.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, do something dramatic. That's what I'm thinking for that intro. Yeah. So he's describing again here sort of how this is lit by fire and by nuclear fuel, by coal and candles. And so there's nothing natural about the lighting. There's something very industrial and very dirty about the world into which we are landing. And he's described here how this is populated with the planets on which the sort of familiar or vaguely reminiscent characters are going to be living. And of course, each of them, the planets, are associated with a stage of grief. And that the association may be significant or not. It may be linked to the astrological or alchemical signs, the color schemes, the nursery rhymes, or the odd bits of popular culture. But in any case, we are looking at a sort of solar system. A solar system that is roughly reminiscent of the stages of grief. And so Alice, seeing all this, is going to perceive the likelihood of a link between her damaged self and this strange version of Wonderland. And that if she can fix this alien broken incarnation and return it to normal, she may be able to help herself. But, like Humpty Dumpty after the fall, she can't do it. It's a fool's errand, and she'll realize this eventually, that she is doomed to failure. It's not possible, it's not desirable. Too much has changed. She's lost too much. But it will not stop her from trying to reconstruct, to cure, to resurrect, to overcome. So it's, as we've said before, the end of this game may not have a happy ending. She may sort of reform, but it's not like we're going to see her walk off into the sunset when all this is over. Alistaria,
Super Chats, likes the idea of Wonderland blowing apart while she's there, blowing her into a different region or area. That would be quite dramatic. It would make for a good cinematic.
Yeah, again, I mean, this kind of goes back to what I was saying. Like, if you can imagine that we were stood upon a green, lush, happy plain, and then there's a massive meteor that comes screaming out of the sky and blows the place up while we're stood there, right? So she's kind of right in the middle of it. It could blow that denial dress right off of her and end her up in some sort of chaos zone. And, yeah.
And Mush, Super Chats, to have the denial dress starting out normal and then become tattered as she goes on, to parallel the breakdown of Wonderland.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it isn't all knackered at the back at the start.
Could be.
Could be. Could be Mush.
Could be Mush. So then we're going on to talk a bit about the levels. This is kind of a question of how linear we're going to make this. So the idea here is that only the first and final levels would be the ones that you're required to visit first and finally. That the levels that are presented to us in between could be approached in different orders depending on how you want to travel between these planets or how you open up the gateways between them. I'm a big fan of this. I feel like there's some degree of linearity that we're going to need and want, and there's also some degree of sort of being able to freely explore some of the sections of the game that would be really nice. And so RJ's encapsulated that concept here. And he is talking about the levels themselves being the representatives of the stages of grief: denial, anger, guilt, bargaining, depression, despair, and acceptance. But it's not always that just because you're in the denial level, you are done with, say, anger. You might still find anger wrapped up in denial. And I think this is going to inform some of the character design. This is going to inform, say, like in Madness Returns, we had sort of like the ruin, you know, sort of the black, blobby, doll face encrusted goo. We're not going to do this, but if you can imagine that it was like a red ruin that represented anger and a black ruin that represented depression. So you might find red ruin, which is anger, in the denial stage or something like that, right? So we'll want to kind of work through this. How exactly are we representing these different stages as either enemies or as elements within levels? Depression could be darkness. So there, we've talked about before, Alice has to sneak around. Perhaps there's areas where she's stripped of her weapons and her powers, And that could be depression areas that are in deep, dark shadow, and that the approach to the movement through those areas is very different than areas that are not controlled by or signifying depression.
All right.
Right. So he's talking a bit there about how we're going to represent the levels and the stages of grief as levels. And there is a suggestion here that in the naming of the levels, denial, for instance, might have a name like Nona or No, and that would be that, it's got kind of a cutesy kid's name approach to it. Golden Guilt, but that's a part of bargaining. Right.
I like Ireland.
Ireland is very good.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I think that's a good one as well. So he does describe the first goal within the first level, and that is to find the Cheshire Cat. And so with this right now, we're going to put a pin in this, and we're going to say, all right, we're going to build around this. But of course, the first thing we're going to find is the Cheshire Kitten. And then we're going to move on from there, presumably with the Cheshire Kitten giving us whatever our second goal is. Now, whatever happens between the first and the last level, we're going to have to fill all that in, but then RJ skips to the last level. So we assume there's a big giant game with all kinds of question marks being solved and all kinds of tasks being approached and challenges overcome. But the final level is going to need to accommodate the setup to Alice in America McGee's Alice, which includes the state of her mind, her maturity, her parents, and the new incarnation of Wonderland. And we're going to have the reasons why the time goes on and why all these things have changed in the time in between. So the question is, and we've talked about this, this is not a game that necessarily has a happy ending. What does victory look like? I think, as far as spoiler warnings go, we don't have all the final details for this, but this is certainly one of those things where I think once people have played through the ending, we're going to have to find a way to make the moment quite magical. It's still going to have to feel like resolution, but we're going to have to figure out a way to have Alice being told that, in effect, you can't win. Be the thing that is the resolution at the end of the game. You're going to have beat all the enemies and, won the battles. And at the same time, you have to have an understanding or an acceptance of the grief, its causes and effects. And this is a qualified victory. It is uncertain, it's elusive, and it's sad. And I think, when we've talked about this before, I've had the thought that, does victory in this game mean letting go of the controller? Letting Alice be defeated? Or does it mean, I don't think we want to make a game in which we sort of turn suicide, self-destruction into a valid out, because we'd get in a lot of trouble for that. But something along those lines, where there's a final moment in the game where the player and where Alice have to do something that really physically echoes or represents the action of acceptance, of letting go, of, in a sense, of kind of giving up or giving in. It's going to be tough.
It is. It needs to be satisfying, but not an ending. It's going to have to be thoroughly thought about, that, I think.
Well, if you are out there and you're listening to anything by Jordan Peterson these days, one of the things that Dr. Peterson says quite often is that existence is suffering, and that the acceptance of that fact can bring people closer to a sort of bearable existence. It's the fighting against that, or the belief that you can somehow avoid it, that oftentimes leads people to self-medication. It leads them to a life of denial And so I think embedded within this somewhere, somehow, is that message. Look, life is suffering. Existence is suffering. People die. You die. You're going to be betrayed. You're going to be lied to. You're going to be trampled upon. But there's something in the acceptance of that I think we want to try to get at in the close of this game. So he's written up a couple of the comments from the cat here. Maybe we should have Dr. Peterson voice the Cheshire Cat this time around. That would be quite funny. It's like the Kermit the Frog version of the Cheshire Cat. So yeah, I think these quotes of "you cope with grief, you do not conquer it." Depression is a condition. It's also an addiction. The fights that you win in dreams are still victories. Of course, to that, Alice responds, "I suppose it depends on the fight." And the cat says, "I know it depends on the dream."
Very wise.
Yeah.
I can see people having that quote as a tattoo.
As a tramp stamp. So when we finish Asylum and, we see Alice in whatever that final state is, she's already sort of in a coma, but we're going to have to return to the asylum to see that she's still in that state. That, Alice is still in that bed, the bed in which we find her at the start of America McGee's Alice. And, maybe we have something by way of the question of where that rabbit comes from that's tucked in her arm.
Where does it come from?
Well, that could be one of the questions.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, we are going to return to that point, and that will have to be then the kickoff point for America McGee's Alice. And what RJ then goes into is the question of what the MacGuffin is. For those of you who don't know, a MacGuffin in the parlance of film scripts it's the crystal. It's the turning off the shields on, the Imperial ship. It's a lot of times, I guess you could say it's a plot device. It's a object. The MacGuffin, say in Indiana Jones film, could have been at the start of the film. It was the golden head, that he's got to acquire out of the tomb, and it's sort of the entire frame of the adventure in the opening of the film revolves around that. Anyway, so RJ is saying we might need to find that, and again, that brings me back to the question of the rabbit. The rabbit is in her arms when we start America McGee's Alice, and the rabbit is who she chases into Wonderland at the start here of Asylum. It could be that the rabbit becomes the MacGuffin, that the toy itself is the MacGuffin. Right?
It could be.
Could be. So, RJ then goes on to give some description of the first game, America McGee's Alice, the timeline of that, and he also talks a bit about the timeline of Madness Returns. But for those of you who've played either of those, I think that this is an understood history. Of course, if you see anything in here that strikes you as wrong or incorrect, you could write that in the comments below. But that does, in effect, bring us to the end of the outline that we've worked up so far. And what we want to do at this point is we want to agree or disagree, and we want to shape what this narrative outline looks like towards a final form. At which point we're then going to start filling in all the blanks. We're going to start answering these questions. Who does she follow into the Asylum Wonderland? What are those initial tasks? And then what is the sort of final state that she ends up in once all the tasks have been completed?
So let us know anything you've heard, you like, you don't like, comment below.
Yes, please. Comment here on YouTube, or you could comment over on Patreon. So, that brings us to wrapping up, because we've gone over by nearly an hour from our normal...
It's a long one.
That was a long one.
As they said to Greg.
Greg's junk. So here's the thing. If you want to continue to help support, or you want to start supporting what it is that you see we're doing here with the development of Alice Asylum, please head over to AmericanMcGee.com. There you'll find a very easy to follow list of things that you can do to help support what we're doing. First off is to sign up for the Alice through mailing list. I think we're at 35,000 or 40,000.
Something like that.
It's gotten to be, yes. And so you can sign up for the mailing list. Please don't put your dead grandma's information in there. That's only useful if it is a valid email address associated with a live person who is a fan of Alice and wants to see more.
Yeah, make sure they're alive.
You can follow me on social media, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. I also have Instagram. I should probably mention that more often. We should probably put that on this page.
Probably.
Because we do a lot of art sharing and promotion and contests and stuff over on Instagram. So you can go and check that out. And then, of course, you can support via Patreon. As we mentioned earlier, our patron count is now at 1,000.
It's as close as makes no difference to 1,700.
1,700. And when we reach 2,000 patrons, which I think we're going to do relatively soon, I suppose, we are going to give away these Cheshire Cat head chaos coins. These are physical, like heavy metal coins. They're going to come with collector's case, like this type of thing. Those will get sent out to patrons at the appropriate level. And
and ownership of the coin will get your name and a message at our approval into Alice Asylum.
There you go. Last but not least, you can actually go over to Mysterious, which is the website where we have all kinds of like stuff, t-shirts and art prints and wallets and you name it. So that is mysterious.americanmcgee.com. Of course, you can also help support us by supporting our sponsors. That is our friends over at Freaky Fandoms. They support us, so if you support them, then you support us. Something like that.
Something like that.
Today has been a crazy long stream. That was a lot of comments and a lot of reading. I'm losing my voice. And sorry again about the audio problems today. We will get that sorted out.
We will.
And I'm not going to be here next week because I'm off to Thailand to do a bit of planning and looking around for stuff related to the next Pirate Jam. And so,
what day?
What's that?
What day you're traveling?
Monday through Friday.
Ooh.
So Monday through Friday, I will be away, and then I will be back the next week. When we come back, we should have more story, more art, and hopefully an update on the conversations with EA and the other people who are helping to support what we're doing with Asylum.
Yeah.
Right.
Are we doing another competition? Somebody said that in the chat. We're going to do one more?
You can do one more.
Let's do one more.
All right, Martin wants to do one more contest.
Spam the chat.
Spam the chat, those of you who actually hung around for the end of this.
Tell us what's your favorite episode of the IT Crowd.
I've never even watched that.
What?
I've never watched the IT Crowd.
God damn it.
I don't even know what that is.
You do.
All right. Well, so yeah, if you're still there, Martin has just decided that there's going to be one more contest for the giving away of the signed license proposal. Do you know we sold like 100 of those yesterday in a very short amount of time over on Mysterious? It was absolutely crazy.
It was pretty popular yesterday on the old store.
Somebody says the IT Crowd sucks, Martin, so suck that.
They're not going to win.
Yeah.
Nightbot, make sure they don't win.
I don't know how that works. You've mentioned the IT Crowd, but I've never
a nerd and not have watched the IT Crowd.
I see.
Anyway, the correct answer is either the work outing or the dinner party. You say anything else, you're wrong.
Okay. Somebody says IT Crowd 1010.
Calamity Jen. It's all right.
Yeah. We've clearly lost a bunch of our users because
Yeah, we went on for a while, and it's probably getting quite late/early in parts of the world.
All right.
So,
well, Nightbot is up to nearly 100 eligible users. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Viviana. Congratulations, Viviana. You won the last prize today, the Alice Asylum license proposal. The routine is pretty simple. You go to YouTube and click on like send a business message or send a message to this business or something. Or you can send an email to mysterious@americanmcgee.com and include your name, email address, phone number, and your mailing address. She says she won last week. What did she win?
There it is, right there.
Oh, she won patches. Yeah. Viviana, have you been bribing Nightbot? It seems a little unfair, but anyway, who are we to judge?
It's a different prize.
It's a different prize. It's a different week. So congratulations, Viviana. Since you won before, I think you probably understand how to do the thing. So do the thing, and you will get a license proposal to add to your patches. All right, guys. Thank you so much again for joining us this week. Apologies again for Martin.
No. Apologies for the microphone.
And we'll be back again, not next week, but the week after. So have a good one.
See you later.
Bye-bye.